evening, I hereby call to order the action session of the Board of School Commissioners for Thursday, April 25th. JROTC cadets from Arsenal Tech High School will post colors and lead us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise for the posting of colors.
Color guard, halt, left, face, outward, face, forward, march. Color guard, halt, prepare to post. Post. Freeze it. Arm. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Arm. Inward. Face. Forward. March. Color guard. Halt. Outward. Face. Right. Face. Forward. March.
Thank you to the cadets from Arsenal Tech. Mr. Mulholland, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Arnold,
Here.
Commissioner Collins,
Here.
Commissioner Hawkins,
Present.
Commissioner Slack,
Here.
Secretary Gore,
Here.
Vice President Moore,
Here.
President O'Connor.
Thank you. We will now adopt the agenda for tonight's meeting. The agenda was reviewed on Tuesday and reflects all necessary modifications or additions. Reviewing the modified agenda, are there any requests for changes to the agenda as presented? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is adopted. We will now proceed to section 2. Before we get into tonight's agenda, we would like to take a moment to recognize some of the tremendous student talent throughout Indianapolis Public Schools. Each month, we invite a group of students to perform during our board action session. Tonight, the 7th grade orchestra for the Center for Inquiry School 70 will treat us with their music. Under the leadership of their director, Tracy Prescott, they will perform a piece called Boogeyman Blues. Please welcome the CFI 70 7th grade orchestra. Thanks to the students from School 7. Moving to item 2.02, we would like to take time each month to recognize those individuals who provide exceptional support to our students and families. Commissioner Collins, would you introduce tonight's honoree?
Yes. Each month during our board action section, we'd like to take a moment to honor a few of our parent and/or community partners who help make our IPS school community so wonderful. Tonight, we're honored to recognize Meredith Easley, a parent nominated by Principal Shane O'Day at Shortridge High School. Principal O'Day shared, Ms. Easley has always been a big supporter of Shortridge. She has spearheaded our community garage sales and supplied food to after-school activities. She led the effort to acquire golf supplies for our girls' golf team and regularly makes donations to the staff to ensure they are aware of how much they're appreciated. She attends nearly every school activity where she can be seen setting up or taking down decorations, cheering on an athletic team, or sitting in on a school meeting. Ms. Easley is a valued member of our school community and a friendly face, always ready to help out at Shortridge High School. Meredith Easley, thank you for your service and dedication to Shortridge and to Indianapolis Public Schools.
Thank you again, Ms. Easley, for your dedicated service to the Shortridge community. Moving to section 3, open comments. Does any commissioner wish to have a comment? Sorry. Hearing none, we will move forward. We will now receive public comment from those individuals who have signed up to offer comments to the board this evening. I will remind our speakers that you're allowed 3 minutes to offer comments to the board. A timer will be started when you begin, and I ask that you briefly conclude your remarks when you hear the timer go off. Comments should be directed to the board collectively, should not be abusive or disruptive, and should not address a topic that might not be of a confidential nature or that will compromise the impartiality of the board. I will also remind our speakers that while the board is happy to receive your comments, we will not respond or answer any questions at this time. If you have signed up to speak on a particular topic on tonight's agenda, you will be called to speak when that time is before the board. Please come to the podium and begin your comments when your name is called. Mr.
Thank you, Commissioner Moore. Our first public comment this evening is from Zoe Barden, please, followed by John Cooper. And commenters, we do have 14 this evening. They're all general public comment as far as signups go. So please do queue after the current speaker so you're ready to speak promptly.
Hello, my name is Zoe Barden, and I am a junior at Shortridge IB High School. Thank you for letting me speak today. I am here tonight because I am very concerned about the priorities of the school district. When I was told that 3 IPS high schools were to be closed, the reasoning, as explained to me, was to reduce operational costs so more money could be spent on the students in the classrooms. That hasn't been the case. On the first day of math class this year, I learned that I would not be getting a textbook. The pre-calculus teacher at Shortridge has one class set for his 4 classes. The books were given to him by the previous pre-calculus teacher who had bought them with her own money. These textbooks are extremely important to our learning. We use them both inside and outside of the class, and fortunately, I am privileged enough to have parents who are able to afford one for me. I cannot say the same for the rest of my peers. Funny enough, the students who have their own textbook do much better in that class and on the IPS mathematics competition. That is not the only expense that the district should be paying for. As you all have heard, Shortridge is looking for a principal for next year. As an IB school, we are able to list jobs internationally. Our current principal was recruited from China, and he has been amazing, so why shouldn't we try to do that again? IPS refused to pay the $125 to list the position internationally. And because our community felt that that was a vital part of finding the right candidate, the teachers paid out of pocket for that expense. The next principal of Shortridge should be seen as an investment, because without the right candidate, the district will lose many fantastic teachers. If I saw that money was being spent wisely, I wouldn't be here today. Within the past week, professionally printed banners with student pictures have been hung on the walls of Shortridge. I'm sure the money spent on those could have easily covered the cost of listing the job internationally or buying a few more textbooks. And at a previous school board meeting, you agreed to help fund a high school for KIP. Now, by my count, IPS will be supporting 8 high schools starting in 2019. That is not saving us any money. As an IPS student, taxpayer, and someone who will be voting in the 2020 election, I am asking you to ensure that my peers and I are receiving an equitable and quality education. Spend our money wisely. Thank you.
Thank you. John Cooper, please, if present. After Mr. Cooper, we have Lena Dickerson, please.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, Interim Superintendent Johnson and members of the board. My name is John Cooper, and I am an IPS parent. I have 4 daughters, 3 at Urban Act. My youngest daughter will join them next year for kindergarten. I'm here to say I support Alicia Johnson being the next superintendent because I believe in her, and I believe she will help IPS kids like mine. She wants to turn the schools all the way around. I believe she is capable of doing that for the greater good. I think she can upgrade levels in our schools, bring more programs to our schools, make kids more successful. I met her at a session last week, and she paid attention to everyone and gave everyone a fair chance to have an opinion. She was patient enough to let us say what we had to say instead of you just saying something and it's going in one ear and out the other. She took her time to come out and listen to us. It was clear she's for all the children and wants to elevate them to the next level, and that is awesome. She's a good motivator. As a whole, she motivates us all to push harder and do more for our kids in these schools. The whole time I was listening to her, she gave me thoughts about how I can step up more. Our kids don't have a chance until we step up. I asked about children's safety, and she let me know all the programs we can get involved in with our kids. She gave me information I needed and helped me out. I think it's important to keep the kids active so they won't turn to the streets. I want someone who cares about their well-being as much as I do for my own daughters, and I think she does, knowing that they have going to bat for them, they can bat for themselves. I feel good and positive that she is going to do the right thing for our kids, for my kids. She's there for the children and parents and teachers. She is there for the whole thing, and she got my vote.
Thank you, sir. Lena Dickerson, please. After Lena Dickerson, we have Talayla Johnson, please.
Good evening, Interim Superintendent Johnson and members of the board. My name is Lena Dickerson. I am an IPS parent and also an IPS graduate. I support Alicia Johnson removing the interim from her title. I think instead of being a voice for adults, she has been a voice for our scholars. That is important to me at the end of the day. She understands they are all individuals, and she sees them as that. She has done a great job as interim, and Ms. Johnson understands what IPS is, but also what it can be in the future. When I spoke to you all a few weeks ago, I mentioned that the next superintendent needs to understand innovation in all the models, all the growth it can have, not have a mindset that change does not work, and not have a fear of change. We need someone who wants to upgrade and update IPS models. They don't have to all be innovation. Let's cater to all of our students. But innovation students are IPS students. We are different, but one and the same. We need someone who can see separate models for what they are now and what they can be. While innovation is not the normal, and a lot of people are scared of change, Alicia is not scared of that change. She wants to see all of our kids to the finish line, not just some. I support Ms. Johnson because I believe she has our kids' best interests at heart. She is the best candidate for this job, not only because she has done it for the last 3 months, but because she has worked for the different levels in our schools. And she is able to show both sides of the picture. She sees from the teacher, the parent, and the admin side. She can see the different barriers in place, and she knows how we can overcome them. She has a better viewpoint than others will have. I believe this woman cares. I am very spiritual. I don't know what it is, but I've heard a little bit, and it's something about her. I think it goes back to what I said first, that she truly gets and understands innovation. She also knows the IPS models, but she can also see where it can be and where it can grow to. I want every scholar in IPS to be rewarded the same pursuits. I believe Ms. Johnson wants the same. I believe she doesn't just see change, but she wants to be the change. We should give her the job. Thank you.
Thank you. Talayla Johnson, please, followed by Marina Barden.
Good evening. Good evening, Interim Superintendent Johnson and members of the board. My name is Talayla Johnson. I'm currently in the 10th grade, but I spent my 5th and 6th grade years at KIP Indy. Alicia Johnson was my principal. Without Ms. Johnson, I might still be an angry kid. I grew up in the bad parts of Indianapolis, so I would have to put on this tough girl suit so people wouldn't mess with me. But when I went to KIP, I could be cool, laugh, and play, and have fun. At KIP, for the first time, I felt like I had a place at school. Ms. Johnson, she interacted with the classrooms. She really cared about us. She had a desk in the hallway, so you could walk up and talk to her at any time. Just sitting and talking to her, she helped me calm down a lot. She listened to everyone. Me and my cousins were really bad, and she wanted to see us do our best. So she took us in the classroom and gave us papers and told us to write what our dreams and aspirations were. No principal ever told me to do that. I had a bad girl attitude. Ms. Johnson told me, you don't have to put that face on in front of me. You have big dreams. She expected more from me than I expected myself. Ms. Johnson reached us. She reached the kids that are troubled. She reached the kids that needed a little light. She inspired us to show our talents. Thank you. She inspired me to write. She inspired me to start writing. I'm here today because I believe Ms. Johnson and I believe in the future of Indy are the kids, and the kids are in IPS. So if we have Ms. Johnson to lead us, there will be much more growth. Graduation rates will go up. The amount of students dropping out will decrease. Ms. Johnson inspired kids to stay in school, get an education, graduate, go to college, and be on top of the world. That's what she did for me. That's why Ms. Johnson should be the superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you. Marina Barden, please, followed by Ollie Payne.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Marina Barton, and I'm a former IPS student and a current 8th grader in Pike Township, which means next year I get to go to high school. But I've come with more exciting news. Right now, my top choice for ninth grade is Shortridge High School, more specifically, their International Baccalaureate program. I wanted to share with you reasons why I chose this school and this program for my top choice. One reason for choosing Shortridge was their IB program. I've had a lot of amazing teachers, but a lot of the time I felt frustrated or unchallenged by the material we were learning. I feel like the International Baccalaureate can be my chance to grow and develop skills that I normally wouldn't in a regular classroom. Reason 2 was their starting time. As you may or may not know, Shortridge starts at 9:05 a.m. Now, starting time is a huge deal for me. I'm not an early bird whatsoever. I also tend to stay up late a lot, so it's important when it comes to my mental and physical health. My third reason is that Shortridge has a block schedule, meaning classes are 1 hour and 30 minutes. This also leaves for 8 classes a semester instead of your normal 7. I was really interested in taking both theater and orchestra, and Shortridge had those opportunities. It was like hitting the jackpot of electives. I've also had the chance to meet and get to know a lot of the teachers who have done some amazing things for their students. I also wanted to go to Shortridge because of their clubs and after-school activities. I've been fortunate enough to be a part of my current middle school's GSA, or Gender Sexuality Alliance. Shortridge also has a GSA and a gender equality club that I'd love to be a part of in the fall. Finally, my last reason, and this one means the most to me, is that my older sister is at Shortridge, and although we severely dislike each other on some days, it would mean a lot to me to be near her for her last year before she runs off to college and becomes successful. Now, if I decide to go to Shortridge High School in the fall, I want all these reasons to remain the same. For me, for the current students, and for the students that will come after me. It's the absolute worst when you've been promised a program and it shuts down halfway through. I've seen it with my own eyes. Thank you for listening to me today. I hope to see you next year.
Thank you. Ollie Payne, if present, please, followed by Nathan Harris. After Nathan Harris, we would have Carrie Harris, if present, please.
Good evening, board, and thanks for having me again. So today I will continue my discussion about being an equity-minded organization. And so as you consider the needs of those in poverty that you serve and the initiatives that are needed to level the playing field for them, you will get closer and closer to actions that display this type of equity that I convey. And as you do that, you may reap the benefits of a better relationship with those in the community who are low income, our citizens, and also those, and more specifically, those that live in the areas that you serve. And you may also reap the benefits of getting attention from other school systems and districts, not only in Indiana, but across our nation, who admire your works as you begin to develop your identity through these works by acts of loyalty that these works and that these initiatives that you actually do begin to happen and become a reality. And so what I offer today is for you to consider what you aspire to do and to be. How would you like to be viewed in reference to your identity? And to take it serious and to consider being noble and ethical and the things that you want to do in order to show that you are a group of people with integrity. And so as you begin to develop that identity, you will begin to act and consider things that you will do despite the past, despite other things that might be slight distractions, be it the business community's interest in you and or other things, and begin to settle down in the identity that you made for yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie Harris, please, followed by Guadalupe Carrera Aquino.
Good evening, Board, Interim Superintendent Johnson. We are so happy to be here this evening, and I have been quite impressed by the young people sharing their cares about the Indianapolis public schools. And as you know, I'm really compassionate about what's going to happen with our schools from this day forward as we continue to look for a superintendent. We have a wonderful interim superintendent. But what I'm concerned is that we need to put some efforts and energy in making sure that the community stays a part of the selection of the new superintendent for IPS as the number one thing, because the community really could help IPS move forward if we ever get to that point where we actually include the community in all that we do around those different school buildings. You have buildings that are in communities, and those communities should be helping that school thrive and be successful. And we've got to get to some kind of point from this board that that's how we do it at every school that we have in this district. I hear some of the schools do great, but we need all of the schools doing great. And when all of the schools are doing great, all of our students will be doing great in those schools, and that's what makes a great school district. I am so inspired that this board is going to do a great job in their selection of our next superintendent, and that you are also going to do a job in improving the education of our students. You're on your track to do those great things, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Guadalupe Carrera Aquino, please, followed by Andrew Rodacher.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Guadalupe Caraquino. I'm a mother of a kindergarten Edison High School. I love that school. Like, I love attending it. My son is a special kid. He has autism. That school has helped me in so much. Before, he didn't used to speak at all, but now he speaks and makes try to hold on to a conversation for a long period of time. The school he went before didn't help him at all. I kind of got a little bit frustrated because he was an IPS, and they said they would have helped me for him to get his speech and his occupationals. So after I moved him out of that school to Edison, Edison helped him with a lot of, I would say, everything. Now he has speech, occupational, and now he loves interacting with others because he wouldn't be close with other people. He wouldn't let nobody touch him. He would just scream from the top of his lungs. And now I can be able to hug him, and he will come, or he will go in the school like early in the morning. Like he'll be there 15 minutes early, hugging everybody else. Then he will go to his classroom. And I would just like to thank everyone that is here for supporting my son, for his speech, and also for all the teachers and everyone at Edison School. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Andrew Rodacker, please, followed by Eric Williams.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Rodacker. My daughter Ada is a first grader at Edison School of the Arts. Just here to talk a little bit about how we ended up at Edison and what our experience has been so far. When our family first toured Edison, we were impressed by the scope of arts opportunities. On that first tour, we saw students building sets for the school musical. We saw some talented vocal ensembles and dance troupes practicing, and artwork displayed everywhere throughout the school. As a graphic designer, I was blown away that 5th and 6th graders were getting exposure to design tools that I didn't touch until I was in college. But what truly stood out to my wife and I was when we walked into a classroom to find the principal and assistant principal substituting for a teacher who was on an extended medical leave. They took a break from helping their class prepare presentations to explain to us that Edison tries to ensure that students experience a consistent quality of education provided by people who they know and who know them. The degree of care and concern for students that we observed on our first visit has proven to be a core aspect of the school's culture. No joke, the first time our family showed up to a school event, nearly every adult that we spoke with knew my daughter's name, and this was like a month into school. At Edison, there's a true sense that everyone, no matter their background, from teachers and administrators, front office and cafeteria staff, all of the adults at the school are invested in knowing the students and their unique needs. In the classroom, Ada has benefited from excellent teachers who have pushed her academically. Shout out to Amanda Eberhardt and Maura Renzi. This year, she and the students in her reading group have researched animals that interest them, gathered facts, written reports, and then brought their research to life by integrating the arts, from dioramas and posters to mobiles and dramatic presentations. One of the highlights of being an Edison parent is attending performances. Watching the children show off what they've been learning and seeing the happiness on their faces when the audience applauds their hard work is fantastic. At this year's kindergarten and first grade showcase, Ada and her class performed Straighten Up and Fly Right by Nat King Cole. When the music started, Ada completely missed her cue and then went on to completely botch her dance routine. But this wasn't because she takes after me. It was because Ada had her arm around the girl next to her and was helping her work through her stage fright. It was a proud moment for me as a parent, and it's a great example of what it means to be an Edison Cool Cat. Thank you for your time. I thank you for your support of schools like Edison, and have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric Williams, please, followed by Anarnia Hunt.
Hello to the board and everyone in attendance. My name is Eric and I am an IPS parent. First of all, I want to say how proud I am that my son Thomas attends Edison School for Performing Arts. He is 6 years old and he's been diagnosed with developmental delay, which, as you guys know, is a learning disability. So he can pick things up, but sometimes it takes him a little bit longer. Sometimes he needs a little bit more attention from the teachers for him to learn things. He initially attended another IPS school for pre-K. I'm not going to name it, but there were complications right away. He didn't seem to take to the structure, he didn't take to the curriculum, and he didn't seem to like the teachers either. So there was not much gained during that year. However, Miss Guthrie from Edison, who's actually sitting in the back of the room, was able to visit that school during a Father's Sunday, and she gave me a great brochure and answered all of my questions about the school. The first of which, how could he attend it if it was all the way across town from where we stay? She answered all of my questions, made me feel comfortable about the curriculum and the programs that were there, and Thomas Edison should be the place that my son's education should continue. That's what she convinced me. In that time, which is almost one full school year, he's come light years. He was very, very reluctant to communicate previously, and now you can't get him to be quiet for more than a moment or two. He's going from not being able to recognize letters in the alphabet to recognizing full words. And just his sociability is just way different. It's all opposite ends of the spectrum. So in short, I'm just delighted that my son has grown so much. And I believe that the program and the teachers and the faculty at Edison are the biggest part of that. So I support this school fully, and I hope that he can continue to attend there for as long as he can. Thank you.
Thank you. Anarnia Hunt, please, if present, followed by Shawanda Tyson. If Miss Tyson's present, followed by Tawana Turner, please.
Good evening, Interim Superintendent Alicia Johnson and members of the board. My name is Shawanda Tyson, and I am the mother of 2 children, one whom attends Ignite Achievement Academy. I am also a proud product of IPS and care deeply about the future of the district. I am here tonight to ask the IPS board to support Alicia Johnson for the full-time role of superintendent. If it were not for Alicia's leadership in IPS as the innovation officer, I do not believe my son Morel would be getting the support and quality education he's getting at Ignite. Morel has an IEP, and I was told years ago that he would never academically perform on grade level. However, thanks to the Ignite team, Morel has excelled beyond my wildest dreams. It was Alicia Johnson who had the courage and leadership to bring a new model and approach to my son's school, which was struggling for many years. This showed me she's willing to wait to make difficult decisions that are in the best interest of our children. Since then, I've had the pleasure of getting to know Alicia Johnson in her other roles in IPS. In my experience, she's transparent and honest. When I've approached her with questions, she's told me honest answers, and she took the time to explain reasons behind decisions she's made. I also appreciate the fact she's a good listener. She actually cares about what parents think. She values our input. As the mother of a special needs child, I want the next superintendent to truly value and appreciate our students with IEPs. They are a major part of IPS, and they are capable of truly great things. They just need the love, support, and right academic models. I know Alicia will stand up for students like Morel, and she will ensure IPS is a district that focuses on inclusion and meeting the needs of every student who walks in the doors of our IPS schools. Please support Alicia Johnson as IPS future superintendent. She's proven she's ready for the job, and that proof to me comes from the success my son is having today in IPS. Thank you.
Thank you. Tawana Turner, please, if present.
Good evening, Interim Superintendent and members of the board. My name is Tawana Turner, and I currently have 4 students at Matchbook Learning. I come in support of Ms. Johnson because I believe that the work she has done so far has been beneficial to not just the innovation schools, but also to the traditional schools. I think that if we have someone that is aware of all of the regulations as, coming in rather than getting someone new. We can continue to move forward and progress rather than someone having to come in and learn all the rules and regulations. It would basically put us at a ground zero, with a new person because they have to learn everything. I would like to see her continue in the role because I feel like the district is not just traditional schools, but it's also the innovation. And because she has worked with both, I think that she can bring a seamless approach to where the innovation schools and the traditional schools can work well together. I feel like, making a change right now would not be healthy for the district. I also believe that, her work with the past with the innovation schools has been a very positive thing. I wasn't in support of the innovation schools, but all four of my children have benefited from it. And I think that the innovation schools have some good programs that can be implemented into the IPS traditional schools, as well as the traditional schools do have some good programs that can, help out the innovation schools. And if we don't have someone who is aware of the needs for both the traditional and the innovation, it's going to be one over the other. And I think that working together and creating a seamless environment is going to benefit the district. My most important role as a parent is to see that my children and the children that I work with at my school and in my community have the best education possible. And I think that if we start changing now, we're going to lose something in the interim. I also feel like that because she has spoken with the parents, she's accepted feedback, and to my knowledge, she has started a community engagement program. And that tells me that she is interested in hearing from the community. And I think that she would be the best candidate for the job. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Moore, that concludes the sign-ups for public comment this evening.
Thank you. And I didn't call your name because I did not want to mess up your name. Please forgive me. So, having received opening comments from the board and the public, we will now proceed to the consent agenda. The items included on the consent agenda were reviewed at our agenda review session on Tuesday and reflect all necessary modifications. Are there any questions or requests to remove an item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carried. We have one board report, item number 5.01, which is an update on the superintendent's search and selection process. President O'Connor provided an update at Tuesday agenda meeting, but I will provide the same update now for those who couldn't make it on Tuesday or who are watching at home. The board held a special call meeting on Monday, April the 15th, of which we received a report from her strategies and the IUPUI School of Education related to the community input sessions and public feedback on the superintendent search process. The board accepted the written report from IUPUI and reviewed and approved the job description and application process for IPS superintendent. The report, job description, and link to apply is available on the IPS website under the IPS Super Search link on the webpage. The application window opened on April the 17th and will remain open until Friday, May 17th at 5 p.m. I will now turn the agenda over to Superintendent Johnson for the superintendent report.
Thank you, Vice President Moore. There are 6 superintendent reports to be presented this month. 2 of them were presented on Tuesday, which included Item 6.01, our school spotlight. So I want to again thank Principal Perry for coming to share about the great things that are happening at William McKinley. The second item, item 6.02, was a presentation that came to you on Tuesday regarding the Love of Reading project that is underway at 3 pilot schools. And so we continue to be very excited about that work, and we'll keep the board updated as that work progresses. The third item, item 6.03, is a presentation on the partnership between our district and the IPS Education Foundation briefing. So I'm very excited to invite Stephanie Bailey, Executive Director of IPS EF, to the podium. Stephanie has done incredible work in this short time since she joined our team, and I'm very grateful for her leadership at the foundation. So I will turn it over to Stephanie.
Good evening, Interim Superintendent Johnson, Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. It is hard to believe that I started this role a year ago, and I was reflecting back on that and thinking about some of the discussions that we had when I first came on board, both with the board members of the foundation and then also key district leadership staff, as we sat and we thought about what does the role of the foundation really need to be to effectively support the district. So I am thrilled to be here tonight to give you an update on the progress that we have been making. So we're going to talk briefly about what is the vision for the foundation. I'm going to give you just a really quick overview on how we're structured, take you through a high level of our fundraising model and the process that we're using to partner with the district to secure funds. We'll talk a little bit about the philanthropic priorities. Joe's going to share those with you. And what I think is the most exciting and best part is I will share some of the results that we've already experienced together as a team. So the vision for the foundation is pretty straightforward. The foundation will manage the philanthropy function and provide grant writing capacity for IPS. When we do this effectively, we will increase the financial resources that are available to the district through strategic and very intentional fundraising. And you're going to hear more about that. We're working very diligently. You cannot be effective trying to raise money for everything and everyone. So we're being very intentional and focused on what we're trying to get extra funds for. When we do this well, that enables the foundation to bring forward our expertise in philanthropic work and enables the IPS staff to have additional capacity and time to focus on what they do best, which is educating students. So here's the big idea. This organization in the past couple of years has historically raised between $1 million, maybe a little bit close to $2 million. The vision right now is that we grow the IPS Education Foundation to earning and receiving $15 million each year that can then be reinvested in the district. That is a significant jump. We are well on our way and look forward to achieving that as soon as possible. So I often get asked, how are we structured? So I thought it might be helpful to give you a quick overview of that. We are an independent 501c3 organization, that's IRS speak, for a charitable organization. We were established in 1984. We are currently a small but mighty team of 2 people, 1 full-time executive, that's me, and 1 shared employee with the district, Kelly Karbowitz-Riley, who's in the back of the room with us this evening. We are governed by an independent board of directors, but in an effort to make sure that we really maintain a linkage with the district, we have 2 appointees to our board. So the commissioners make 1 appointment. My first year, Commissioner Gore served with us. Thank you very much. And this year, we now have Commissioner Arnold serving. Thank you as well. And then the superintendent's appointment is Doreen Hoops. I think it's really important to underscore that as an organization, we exist solely, this is beautiful, we get up every day and just think about how do we raise money to support the students and the families and the teachers and the staff of this school district. That is all we do. So wanted to give you a quick overview of our fundraising model. Not unlike other organizations, our funding really comes through 2 key streams. One, pardon me, is unrestricted gifts. Excuse me. Those are gifts where the donors have said, hey, IPS Foundation, we entrust you to take these dollars and to put them to the highest and best use. So use them as is necessary. Those dollars primarily come through our annual fund. They're solicited from individual donors or perhaps from corporate gifts. We add to that restricted gifts. So restricted dollars are as they sound. The donor has said, I explicitly would like this gift to be used in this particular purpose. Most of those gifts are what I would call major gifts. They're going to be larger. They're 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures. We haven't gotten to 8 figures yet, but we'll get one of those. Thank you. And they are typically going to be solicited from corporations, foundations, local or national, or through a competitive grant process that we've pursued. When you add those together, unrestricted plus restricted, we spend a little bit of money to run our operation. What that gives you are the pool of funds available to reinvest into the district. So those really are invested in 3 key areas. One is the microgrants program that we run. You may be familiar with this. Teachers, staff, district employees have the opportunity to apply for small grants from us. These are dollars that give them funding for supplies, additional resources, maybe field trips, that without this funding, they simply can't offer those experiences to their students, or, as we all know, they may have to take that money out of their own pocket if they really want to make that project happen. This year alone, we've invested about $30,000 in microgrants. All right, I'm going to stop and get the water. Pardon me. We've invested about $30,000 in microgrants and really want to grow that program over time. The second area that we invest in is special events. And so we have said that we would take on the responsibility for getting sponsorships and additional dollars that can be used to support the district's 4 key events. So we've been out engaging company partners with us that will invest in the Teacher of the Year event, the IPS Honors event, Back to School Bash, and the Showcase of Schools. So the exciting part about this is it gives the community a chance to make an investment, but it also relieves the district budget from having to find funds to support those. Last but not least, and the largest area of where the funds get reinvested are really in the programs and initiatives that are tied to IPS's strategic priorities. And so you're going to hear about those in a minute. So as we started this collaboration with the district, we said, hey, let's lay out a chart on how this is going to work. What's the foundation going to do? What's the district going to do? What are we going to do together? So this chart just walks you through that. First and foremost, I think it's really important to know that at the foundation, we fundamentally believe it is the district that sets the priorities and identifies the needs. That is not the role of the foundation to say what we should need money for. The district says, hey, this is what's important to us, that without outside funding, we simply are not going to be able to do this. So we come in and say, let's go find some funding for it. So we take a look at who are potential prospective funders. We spend time developing relationships with them, telling the story of what it is that we're trying to get accomplished. And then when we're ready and it makes sense, we assemble the proposal. So we're taking on the work of assembling the proposal, but absolutely collaborating with the district staff as they are the subject matter experts to make sure that we present the information and what we're trying to get accomplished correctly. We send the proposal in. If all goes as planned, we are awarded funding. Then there are really 2 paths. So the district team has the opportunity to take the money and get to work on implementing those grant dollars for the program that we requested them for. And on the foundation side, we're working hard at really making sure we're managing the relationship with the funder. So how do we find opportunities to update the funder on the progress of how their monies have been invested? How do we get them out to a school or in a particular setting, whatever is applicable, for them to experience those dollars in action? And then also providing support on the reporting end. So you always have to report back to the funder on what we did to use their funds. And at this time, Joe is going to share a little bit with you about the work that we've done to really hone in on what is it exactly that we are working towards raising funds for.
Thank you, Stephanie. Good evening, Commissioners. Superintendent Johnson. So thrilled to have Stephanie here. 2.5 years ago, we set out as an administration to figure out what we could do to be as strategic as possible to make the foundation a huge asset to IPS. And we thought about two things, and one was governance of the organization. So we made the proposal that we have school board commissioners and the superintendent have some role in governing the organization, but the key was really going to be leadership. And so I'm thrilled that we were able to work with the foundation and find such an excellent leader in Stephanie. And it's hard for me to believe it's been 1 year that she's been here, because there's been such significant change in that relationship and so many results already for our students and families. So I'll talk about, as Stephanie said, the priorities that IPS has for what we're raising money around. And these all derive, as all of our work does, from the IPS vision and mission. This is why we exist as an organization. This is something that Superintendent Johnson presents to us every week to start our weeks as a leadership team, so we're thinking about what we do all day, every day, and it's these two things right here. So we're a family of excellent public schools in which every student has the opportunity to succeed and the power to create their own future. And then our mission is to empower and educate all of our students to be critical thinkers, creative thinkers, and responsible thinkers, to embrace the diversity that makes up our district, and to pursue their own individual dreams with purpose. So from that vision and mission, we think about what is the theory of action, how do we go about our work, what do we value, what matters to us as leadership in IPS. And so it's beliefs about how we will accomplish that mission and achieve our vision for the students and families we serve. So what we believe is that teachers and school leaders, educators, are the most important factors determining student success, and they're also the most knowledgeable about the unique needs of individual students and school communities. We also believe autonomous schools are those in which teachers and school leaders have the power to make decisions in the best interest of the students they serve, and they take responsibility for student learning. Therefore, if we exist as a high-performing organization solely to support, empower, and hold accountable a system of autonomous schools, then we'll accomplish our mission and realize our vision. So the three philanthropic priorities I'll share derive from that cascade. Why do we exist? How do we go about our work? And then what do we need additional resources to achieve? So 3 priorities. Took us a long time to get from 10 to 20, 30, all the way narrowed down to 3. And these are intentionally broad buckets, but they're also narrow enough that they provide focus to our work. And so number 1, on the basis of our theory of action, we need to develop and empower talented educators. We have so many in IPS, but not enough. And we need to constantly make every one of our educators better. So we support teacher leadership programs. Opportunity culture is one prime example of that, something happening at the school level where schools design what is going to be happening with teaching and learning in the best interest of their students. We've worked to develop a principal competency model. What do we need out of school leaders? What skills and abilities do they need to have to lead our autonomous schools? We're also thrilled to have some funding coming soon to help us with new teacher induction. So when we bring new teachers to the district, whether they're career changers or early career teachers, we're able to give them a very solid foundation for success with our students. The second one is supporting students and enriching academics. So this is direct to the customer, our core business of teaching and learning. One of those major focuses, as you know, and as many of you know from a recent announcement of an investment from JPMorgan Chase, is post-secondary readiness. Getting our students ready to succeed in the 3 E's prior to graduation day and able to succeed far beyond, as our mission and vision call for. It's also something as simple as field trips. We have very constrained funding, especially as it relates to local property taxes and transportation. Because we're a district rich in choice, we invest our transportation dollars in that, and oftentimes those academic enrichment activities and field trips that other school districts fund through parent investment aren't available to our students. And so we want to work on enriching the academic environment through field trips and excursionary learning. Also extracurricular programs, from athletics to speech and debate to career and technical student organizations that provide students with particular career passion opportunities extracurricularly. We want to invest in those types of programs. And then another big bucket that came up very, very frequently when we asked our teachers what matters to them and what we need to focus on as an organization is the social and emotional development of our students. So a focus on social and emotional learning. It's important to what we do. We make our own investments in it, but there's never enough. When we have students with adverse childhood experiences, trauma at home, the school is the safe sanctuary for them. It's where they come to learn how to be human and are able to do so in a safe environment. And so we want to support our educators and support our students in developing that skill set in young people. Finally, we have to build and sustain a high-performing organization. The people that work in this building, all the operational staff, all the finance staff, all the human resources staff that are not teaching and learning staff, we need to function in a very high way. We need to make sure that operations, finance, human resources are operating at a very high level so that our school leaders and our teachers can focus on teaching and learning and count on us to take care of all the back office functions and to responsibly manage the school corporation's budget and operations. And so to do that, we need investments in technology. It's money we don't have budgeted. We need to invest in the latest cutting edge technology that major corporations and high performing organizations across the world use that we just don't have as a school district. And the other thing is we need to invest in our staff who aren't teaching and learning staff. I'm very excited that Philanthropic investment has allowed us to provide management training for everyone who is a manager, in this building, in our central office, as well as principals. And that training was philanthropically funded, very well reviewed, and we want to continue doing things like that and doing it with other people's money so that every dollar that we have can be in classrooms, in teachers' paychecks, and focused on our core business of teaching and learning.
Thank you, Joe. So we'll spend just a minute as we wrap up our time here sharing the great news about the results. So what you're taking a look at here, remember in the fundraising model I took you through, here's how the dollars come in and here's how the dollars are invested out. So on this particular chart, we're looking at the time frame of July through August 15th. The dark blue bar represents what happened in July through August 15th in the 17-18 fiscal year. So you could see that there was about $146,000 raised during that time period. Fast forward to the same time period of this fiscal year, and I'm thrilled to say that we've topped $1 million that has been received. What's most exciting about that number is the little asterisk down below that indicates there's an additional $850,000 that has been committed that will be on its way to us shortly. So we are hitting close to that 2 million mark, and we still have a couple months left to go in the fiscal year. So we'll see how far we can push it over the top. On the right-hand side, you see the total numbers of funding distributed. So same time period, July through April 15th of 2017 to 18, the foundation distributed approximately $258,000. Again, taking the same time period this year, on the right-hand side, the light blue bar, we've been able to distribute $705,000. So that breaks down into the $30,000 in micro grants, some support for the district events. The core of those dollars have really been reinvested in those programs that are associated with the IPS strategic priorities that Joe just shared with you. I will not take you through the details of each one of these, but in those dollars that we have fundraised this year, I just thought it would be fun to draw out a few of our success stories that have occurred as we have worked together in this new partnership model. In particular, the first three, Joe mentioned just a moment ago, the recent announcement that we had a great fun morning announcing the JP Morgan Chase grant dollars to support post-secondary readiness. Not yet announced, so pretty hot off the press, is almost $200,000 that we'll be receiving to support our high school students and work around substance abuse and use prevention. My personal favorite, number 3, and I'm not trying to be coy by saying it's confidential, we're just under a confidentiality agreement with the funder, and I can't tell you yet all the details, but we have a $650,000 gift coming. So you can see some of the other big success stories thus far, and down at the bottom, I did want to let you know that it's not just what's come in, we're continually what I call building the funnel, looking for opportunities to submit more proposals. We've got 2 active proposals out right now that is all around work for a teacher wellness program and helping teachers with the secondary trauma that they often experience by serving our students. And as I like to say, we're just getting warmed up. So I look forward to coming back and giving more updates. Any questions?
No, there are no questions. I'd just like to say thank you for all your hard work.
My pleasure.
And trying to make sure that our students are given the best opportunities.
Yep.
And it was a pleasure working with you when I did.
Yeah,
so.
likewise.
Commissioner Hawkins.
Thank you. Again, Stephanie, thank you for your work. had the chance to grab a cup of coffee with Stephanie and hear a little bit more about her background and experience. And it sounds like she's doing a great job, so we appreciate you for that.
Welcome.
So can I maybe just a practical question, or two actually, maybe one about the board. So you're obviously Commissioner Arnold is one of your board members, and also you mentioned another appointment as well, during hoops. Can you talk a little bit more about the other members of the board and sort of some of the experience or capabilities or dynamics of that board?
Sure, great question, thank you. So we have 9 other members of the board, so for a total of 11. They represent, broadly speaking, without going through them each one by one, they represent a variety of sectors in the community. So everything from government to our sitting board president is a CFO, actually of an organization that manages philanthropic dollars for donor-advised funds. That's very handy. And then also have folks who definitely have a connection into the district, whether it's that their spouse is employed by the district or that they are parents of students who are in the district. So it's kind of a wide variety of people and experiences, which is great. Yeah.
Arnold.
Thank you for the report and for the opportunity to serve on the board. I've only been to one meeting, but very anxious and very thrilled with the direction that the foundation, I've been on this board a long time and seeing different things that the foundation have been involved in that have been very noble causes but have not really raised the money. So I'm very excited about the fact that the board is moving forward with working diligently to find those dollars that will help us do a better job. But I do know that some people probably remember the foundation for things like honoring distinguished alumni, and I know that somewhere down the road that will also be part of the group. So I don't know if you're far enough to speak to that,
Sure.
but I do want to reassure people on behalf of the board that there will be a way to continue with that historical designation of honoring distinguished alums.
Right, excellent point, Commissioner Arnold. Thank you for that. So the foundation, in brief, has historically held an event entitled Hall of Fame in partnership with the district that gives us an opportunity to honor and acknowledge very publicly successful IPS alums. We very much desire to continue that work. The discussions we're having internally is what's the best format for that would be most effective for engaging the community. But rest assured that we'd like to add a few more plaques to the hallway out there, and it's definitely on the radar.
We do have one right on our board, Commissioner Moore.
Well, thank you. No, and truly, we do want to thank you for that $2 million that you have provided,
You're welcome.
that you're earning every day for the children of our schools, and that is truly something we do appreciate.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, Joe. The fourth item, definitely clap for $2 million. The fourth item, item 6.04, is an update on our Reinventing High School's work. As you know, this is the first year of operating in an all-choice high school landscape with college and career-themed academies. Jennifer O'Shea serves as our post-secondary readiness officer, and she will present. She'll also be joined by Sean Harris and some of the amazing students on the Superintendent Student Advisory Council who will share some of their experience from the student point of view, and we also have members of each high school's leadership teams in the audience as well. So Jennifer, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners and Superintendent Johnson. I'm really excited to be here tonight to share with you an update on the progress that we have made over the course of the last year around our high school reinvention work. So this evening, I'm going to talk about a few different things. I want to start with just a history, especially for those of you that are relatively new. I think it'll provide some context and where all of this started. Then I'm going to talk about kind of high school updates. So sharing the different IPS high school choice options, enrollments. Then I'll provide updates in terms of future center activities, some of the construction that has been done and will be done in the high schools, as well as some exciting partnerships and successes that we've seen through this work. Then I'll turn it over to Sean, as Alicia mentioned, so that you can hear about what's been happening with the Superintendent's Student Advisory Council and get a student perspective on what's happening in the high schools. And then I'll wrap up with what's next? What is High School Reinvention 2.0? So really looking forward to sharing all of this with you, and happy to take some questions at the end. And I know my colleagues from the high schools would be willing to do that as well. So just to give you, again, some of that context, in September of 2017, the IPS Board of Commissioners approved the district's 3E strategy to reinvent IPS high schools. The vision is that 100% of IPS students will graduate on time and be prepared to enroll in college or university, enlist intentionally in the military, or become employed at a livable wage. So in order to support that vision of the 3Es, IPS implemented two different strategies. First, they implemented an all-choice high school so that students could choose their high school based on their interests and post-secondary plans. In order to make that a reality, we had implemented additional CTE pathways and work-based learning experiences aligned to high-wage, high-demand industries and expanding rigorous preparatory options for college. The second was that IPS created future centers in each of the high schools, and I believe it was Commissioner Collins who mentioned the other night that she has visited some of those, and I was really excited to hear that she had such a great experience in each of those. So I'll go into a little bit more detail about those as well. So now I want to go ahead and give you some updates around what's been happening. So in this first slide, you'll just see all of the different IPS school choices, as well as enrollment numbers. So current IPS choice options across our 4 high schools include 6 college and career-themed academies with 20 different pathways that align to in-demand industries and occupations, 10 traditional CTE pathway options through the district's Career Technology Center, an international baccalaureate program, an international baccalaureate career-related program, and several other programs including law and public policy, visual and performing arts, the humanities, New Tech, and the Math and Sciences Academy on Tech's campus. Additionally, students can choose one of our innovation partner high schools as well, which includes Heron High School, Riverside High School, and Purdue Polytech High School. Now I want to dive into some of the construction that's happened. So with the consolidation and reinvention of our high schools, construction was necessary at all of the high schools. Each of the high schools saw, of course, the addition of the Future Center, as well as the conversion and/or expansion of classrooms and lab spaces to really support the new programs and pathways that were coming into their school. So here you'll see an overview of what happened at Tech, what was completed in Phase 1. And at Tech, there were really a number of classrooms that were expanded and outfitted for classes associated with their new Construction, Engineering, and Design Academy. Future considerations include a barbering classroom and lab. There has been incredible interest from students at Tech in barbering, so we're exploring that option, as well as a centralized counseling office suite. So there was considerable construction done at Crispus Attucks to accommodate the growing Health Sciences Academy, as well as the new Teaching, Learning, and Leading Academy. Additionally, there was the addition of an Alumni and Parent Resource Center and a Math Assistance Center for math peer tutoring. Additional construction is set to take place this summer and includes the conversion of 1 large classroom into 2 health rooms and a retail bookstore. Construction at George Washington was really focused on creating space for their 3 brand new academies, which was Information Technology, Business and Finance, and Advanced Manufacturing, Engineering, and Logistics, as well as creating 2 freshman CTE centers. Construction plan for Phase 2 this summer includes a renovation of the administration offices and the counseling area. And last but not least, we've got Shortridge. So most of the construction at Shortridge was really focused on updating classrooms to support the visual and performing arts programs that came over from Broad Ripple High School. Construction plan for the summer includes additional special education life skills classroom and an expansion of the music ensemble room. So now to jump to the IPS Future Centers. And so I know you've heard some about this, and I hope that you all get the opportunity to get out and visit each and every one of them and maybe even become involved in some of the programming. But through the generosity of the Lilly Endowment, we received $2.87 million to implement Future Centers in each of our high schools, as well as focus and expand social and emotional learning curriculum in the K-8 space. So these Future Centers were launched this past fall in each high school, and they're physical spaces within the school that really, they are staffed specifically to address 3E programming and services. So they serve as sort of a hub of activity. Any student can come into the Future Center and see the writing specialist to get help with resume, cover letter, putting together a college application, writing college essays. There are military nights. There are so many activities going on in programs that really support all 3 E's. So not just for college, not just for employment, not just for enlistment, but for all 3 E's. There is always something going on in the Future Center. They're doing a great job with employment and community partnerships. Each school really had some great partnerships going, but the Future Centers have really taken that to the next level, bringing in employers to offer mock interviews and resume critiques, bringing in colleges and universities to talk to students about the opportunities that exist at their institutions, community partners coming in and speaking with students and providing all sorts of resources and supports. And additionally, the Future Centers have student ambassadors that really represent the school and the Future Centers and what students can become. So this next slide is actually really exciting. I was thrilled when it was shared with me, but you can see here that the Future Centers have been extremely busy. This is a snapshot of activity from August through the end of March. So in that time, you'll see that there's been more than 1,100 events hosted by the IPS Future Centers. And there have been more than 46,000 student touch points via the Future Centers. You can see here, I won't read all of these to you, but you can see that there's lots of parent interaction, community partners engaging with the Future Centers, employers. So really excited and believe that it's going to continue only to increase as people come in and see just how exciting the opportunities in the Future Centers are. We have employers and community partners reaching out every single day, wanting to participate in events and get involved. So that's very exciting. So I also wanted to make sure that we noted sort of overall some of the successes and celebrations related to this reinvention work. So first and foremost, there has just been an incredible amount of investment from funders in this work in general. So just recently we announced the JP Morgan Chase grant that's really supporting our ability to scale work-based learning opportunities for our students. The Lilly Foundation, Salesforce, IU Health have all contributed so that we can do things like buy equipment for our students and support our staff. And so the outpouring has just been incredible and continues in great partnership with our Education Foundation. The second piece I want to mention, and I kind of talked about this with the Future Centers, but just is that increase in community and employer partnerships. So again, each school had some really great stuff going, but with the addition of the Future Centers and with the addition of the pathways and programs, we have advisory boards for each of our academies. We've just seen an incredible uptick of interest and engagement by employers and community partners. And lastly, it's just that increase in academic opportunities and options for students. It is not a one-size-fits-all education model. It is truly, there are so many opportunities for students based on their skills and interests and aptitudes, and we are creating academic options that lead to, opportunities that are aligned to high-wage, high-demand opportunities, and or that are getting students ready for post-secondary or success in the military. I also wanted to make sure that, I talked very specifically about each school. And so each school submitted some ideas for what they wanted to highlight. And of course, there were many. And so I pulled out what I thought were really most exciting and that we should highlight tonight. So first and foremost, Arsenal Tech's construction's trade class has begun. I shouldn't say they've begun building a tiny home. They've begun the prototype for the tiny home. They'll actually begin building this summer, and it should be complete in about a year. So we will definitely be having a ribbon cutting for that, and would love to see you all there. I don't know that we'll all fit in there together, but you're certainly welcome to come out and take a look and wait in line to go in. George Washington successfully launched their first ever career fair day in November. It was a wild success. All of their students participated, and they had over 50 community and employer organizations present. And they really spent time with all the students to discuss their career pathways, their aspirations, gave them a lot of great advice about how to be successful, and provided mock interviews so the students could get that practice. Currently, more than 40 Crispus Attucks scholars attend classes on IUPUI's campus through the IUPUI SPAN program. And that's really where students go and spend 2 days a week on IUPUI's campus and earn college and high school credits. Next year, they anticipate about 80 students will be participating in that. So that number continues to grow. And of course, Shortridge's Butler's Writing Club has a partnership with Butler University where 2 days a week there are Butler graduate students that come in and actually work with Shortridge students to really help them with their research and writing skills. So as you can hear, there are a lot of cool things happening. Some were already happening, some are happening because of this reinvention work, but the list is much, much longer than that. But just wanted to highlight a few really cool things for you. And some upcoming opportunities and events that we want to make sure we highlight. So the first is really, really exciting. It's happening next week, and we would love for all of you to stop by. So we are hosting, in collaboration with Junior Achievement, the first ever Inspire Job Fair. So this is geared toward our 550 students that have registered who have said, employment is my E. I am going to be looking for a job upon graduation. So, we have teams that have been working really hard on this. We have more than 40 employers that are going to be present who have said, yes, I have immediate opportunities for these students and I'm ready to come out and I'm ready to talk to them. So we have been working through our future centers to get the students ready for this. So it's not just, hey, there's this career fair, you should go, but come in, we're gonna get you ready. We're gonna practice interviews. We're going to beef up your resume. For some students, we were able to connect them with Dress for Success in Daniel's Closet so they could have a professional wardrobe to go to this job fair. So very, very exciting. Again, it's on May 1st, and it's going to be in Arsenal Tech's gym. It begins at 8 a.m. and goes through about 1 o'clock. So feel free to stop by. On 2 separate dates, Crispus Attucks students in the Health Sciences Academy will participate in mini med school. I believe that's actually happening tomorrow or very, very soon. And students actually just get to spend the day at IU Health, and they get to learn from medical students what it's like to be a medical student. So really just a great opportunity to be inspired to pursue that if they so choose. Shortridge will participate in a week without walls from May 18th or 28th through 31st. And that's just a really great opportunity for students to get outside the classroom and have different types of experiences. My understanding is that, at each grade level, there'll be different experiences. I know one class level is going to Washington, D.C. on a U.S. government trip. And so, they get to do some just really cool things and apply their learning in an external setting. Students in the nursing pathway who are on track to complete their CNA license requirements, and this actually already happened. It happened, I believe, this past Monday, but they were able to attend a nursing employment fair, and there were about 9 employers present who are recruiting for all sorts of different opportunities, home health aides, CNAs, et cetera. And so the 40 students who attended were able to interact with employers and learn more about sort of part-time and full-time opportunities relevant to their degree. Also wanted to make sure that we gave some updates on our innovation partner schools. So for Heron and Riverside High Schools, a desire of the innovation agreement with IPS was to increase diversity and to ensure that they were reaching more students living within the neighborhood boundaries. So you'll note here, they really are seeing an increase in the number of students from IPS middle schools that they've had no previous relationship with. They're also seeing an increase in their freshman minority population at Heron and an increase in the number of students coming from within neighborhood boundaries at Riverside. So overall, I think they would say that the innovation partnership is meeting their needs. Similarly, Purdue Polytechnic wanted to ensure that they're serving a diverse population that mirrors the population of the district. You can see their demographics on this slide, which shows that enrollment continues to be diverse. They also have had several successes in their first few years. So you can see here that their current sophomore students began internship experiences. Their rising juniors will begin concurrent enrollment in classes at Purdue University. And apparently, they have a dominant robotics team. So they wanted to make sure they shared all that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over for a few minutes to Sean Harris, who is going to give an update on the Superintendent Student Advisory Council, and you will get to hear from several students about what they're experiencing in the high schools.
Good evening, Board and Superintendent Johnson. Over the last few months, I've had the privilege of working with the Superintendent Student Advisory Council. As you can see, our mission is the Superintendent Student Advisory Council is a collective of passionate IPS students who firmly believe that every student deserves the opportunity to succeed and should have the power to create their own future. Council members actively engage with their respective school communities and represent the voices of their constituencies to contribute meaningful input to district leadership. So we launched back in February 2019. The council is composed of 9 high school students between 10th and 12th grade, representing all of our IPS high schools as well as our innovation high schools. We asked each principal at each school to nominate a student who they believe had the ability to represent their entire student body, demonstrated strong leadership qualities, and possessed a bold and authentic student voice. So the council meets monthly with Interim Superintendent Johnson to discuss IPS-related topics and provide feedback to district leadership. So far, we've had discussions on educational equity, extracurricular activities, the high school reinvention, and how to authentically capture student voice. We actually had our most recent meeting yesterday where we discussed the potential Indigo partnership, as well as our annual planning process, as well as building district pride. And I think I can speak for Superintendent Johnson, Scott, and Christian, who also attended the meeting, that this is an amazing group of students. They are so bright, and the amount of insight and thought that they bring to these meetings is amazing. So I'm really fired up and excited to continue working with this group of students and see what they accomplish moving forward. So you're actually going to have an opportunity to hear from 3 of our council members who are going to share a little bit about their experiences this past year in high school. And before I turn it over to them, I want to note that we are currently finalizing logistics to put together a similar council for adults. So that'll be coming soon. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you all Aldo Medina, who is a junior at Arsenal Technical High School, who's going to come and talk to you about his experience.
Thank you, Superintendent Johnson and members of the board. Again, my name is Aldo Medina. I'm a junior at Arsenal Technical, more specifically the Law and Public Policy pathway. I did want to share briefly that I don't participate in many extracurriculars at the school, but I do actually chair the state's Legislative Youth Council. So that's an authorized by statute group within the General Assembly, composed entirely of young people that work to enact policy that benefits Hoosier youth. And through that council, I mean, it has just changed my life. I was able to speak in front of the House chambers on February 12th. I spoke on a House committee just a few weeks ago to testify on behalf of Senate Bill 464, which helps remove legal barriers for homeless youth. And there have just been so many connections and experience that I've had through that legislative council that I think truly has made me a better leader, not just in my local community, but also in my capacity as a Hoosier young person. And I did want to speak a little about my experience with the Future Centers at Arsenal Tech. I'm not in there too often, but I have used it in the past to catch up on homework assignments, for example, or to fill out scholarship applications. So overall, it's just a nice place to have access to a place to work, really. And I know that other students as well have utilized that learning space more effectively than me, I think, because they've gone on field trips, and I've seen the great changes that those future centers have brought to our schools. And if I did want to, some information about unique opportunities in my capacity as an Arsenal Tech student, I'm so excited about being an Arsenal Tech student. I'm proud of it. I talk about it all the time. For one, the administration. I've already taken every single social science AP class at Arsenal Tech, so the administration was able to facilitate a self-study for AP Comparative Government. So I'm self-studying the governments of Nigeria, Mexico, the United Kingdom, China, and Russia. I'll be taking that AP exam on May 14th, I believe. Aside from that, I'll be, there's so many strong community partners at Arsenal Tech. We have the Upward Bound program at IPY. We have the Elevate program, which has their own classroom inside one of the buildings. And we have the Peace Learning Center, which comes in on Tuesdays and helps us out. So again, another strong aspect of our school. And then one last thing, I'm very excited about this. I'll be spending my summer at Princeton University, taking classes, and as I guess I should specify, this is a program known as the Leader Scholars Program. So they choose 100 students nationally, and I'm so grateful that I was able to be chosen to represent IPS. I believe the first IPS student ever to be selected for that group. I wrote my essay about my experience growing up, not growing up, but attending IPS these last 3 years. And again, I don't know how much I can say. I just really, really love being an IPS student. With that said, there were also some opportunities of improvement that I wanted to take this moment to mention. So one issue I've noticed at Arsenal Tech is I think there's a sentiment going on that the transition process to that all-choice model is incomplete. That's the grassroots feeling that I'm seeing from my peers, from the parents of my friends, and even the teachers as well. I've heard a lot of comments, and I think there's a perception that the magnets, they've been renamed as all-choice pathways. In effect, the de facto result of that was almost the elimination of those programs in favor of a consolidated campus. I can't exactly speak for those other schools, Attucks, George Washington, or Shortridge, but I'm definitely at Tech. I think the lines between law and public policy and math and science, for example, are a bit difficult to notice. I'm not particularly sure if students might see those lines as well, if that makes sense. So one tentative thought I was thinking about that was the establishment of magnet-specific guidelines, perhaps, or materials and other resources, and those would be provided to students, counselors, and administrators. One thing I know that immediately sticks out is that on our school IDs, we used to have the name of the magnets listed on the ID, so every student knew if they were a law and public policy student or if they were a math and science student, and we don't exactly have that now. So again, those small steps, I think, help build a better distinction between the many great all-choice pathways that were offered. But with that said, that's all I have to say for today, and I thank you for this opportunity to share my experiences as an Arsenal Tech student. Thank you.
Our next student speaker is Faith Harrington, who is a junior at Crispus Attucks.
Hello, my name is Faith Harrington, like you said. I attended Crispus Attucks High School and I'm a junior. I'm in the nursing pathway and a few extracurriculars that I'm involved in. I am the class vice president. I am a math assistant tutor. I am part of the IU School of Medicine Advisory Board. I'm a JROTC cadet, and I'm a student representative of the CAHS Cultural Exchange Program. I'm sorry, I'm nervous. So as far as my Future Center interaction, I have been there a few times, especially like for SAT and ACT prep, and they have like connected me with a few people in our community that have that know like school acceptance rates and how to get into a good school and how to prepare your essay and what to say and what not to say and how to dress. They have also prepared us for like college fairs and job fairs that I've been attending, sponsored by the Future Center. A few things that I've enjoyed this year are being a SPAN student, going to IUPUI and getting 18 credit hours for free. It's a great opportunity. And then being in the nursing pathway has been a great opportunity as well. And just opening our eyes to a lot of medical opportunities that we won't be able to get on our own. And then I have also enjoyed my admin and like my principal, Ms. Franklin, has been giving me all these opportunities to get pushed out there and do a lot of things. And with the school closings, there have been a lot of students coming into Addicts, and I feel like it's just given us a lot of opportunities to interact with a lot of different people and get their viewpoints on a lot of different things. And it's been able to help us strengthen our school and strengthen our community. And opportunities for for improvement, I think, so we do have like admin come into the teachers' classrooms and just evaluate them on their, performance and teaching our class. But I feel like they're kind of just like saying, oh, we're coming in to evaluate you. I think they need to just do pop-up evaluation so they won't be prepared to just like put on the whole act. And then they can actually see what it really looks like in a classroom, because I know I was fortunate to have really good teachers, but some teachers, they don't always have students' best interests in heart, and they are not really there for their success, or maybe they have a lot of other things going on, so they don't put like their main focus on the students and achievements. So I think that if they had just like pop-up evaluations, they could really see what's going on instead of giving them time to prepare. And then I know that in prior years we had a program or like a rule that if you got lower than a C, you would get kicked out of Addicts or some type of repercussion. But now that's not the case. So some students, they're okay with making D's and F's. And when you get later on into your future, that's not okay. A lot of employers don't want to see that. When you're going to get enlisted, they don't want to see that. And when you're going to enroll, they don't want to see that. So I was thinking maybe, I know that, some of our students, they have like home issues. So I'm sure like a C won't always be like their fault, kind of like they probably have a lot of other things going on. So like just occasionally getting a C, they can work on that. So I was thinking maybe like they could go on academic probation or maybe get counseling to figure out what that issue is. And then I know that a few students in our school have been getting suspended, and they just keep getting suspended and suspended. I was thinking maybe, I know it kind of sounds bad, but maybe just expulsion, because I feel like if you just keep giving them chance after chance, they can keep doing whatever they want to do. And that's a mindset for a lot of our students. So I think expulsion will not only be just like, oh yeah, just get out of our school. It will actually like open up their eyes to see, oh wow, I really messed up a really good thing. Because a lot of our students, they say like, oh, our school isn't that good. But our school really is a great school. We have a lot of opportunities such as our pathways, IUPUI, our Future Center. They are preparing us to be successful, but you just have to take what you need from it. And I don't think that a lot of our students are realizing that. And then another improvement I was thinking is just like our school spirit and our school involvement. And I think that just becomes like a problem with how comfortable the students are and how we need to make it more like a family. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Our final student speaker is Sonya Perez, who is a sophomore at Riverside High School.
Hi, good afternoon, Mrs. Johnson and the board. My name is Sonya Perez, and I'm currently a sophomore at Riverside High School, which is one of the innovative schools that is a new partner to IPS. So I would first like to say that I love the school. It's probably the best choice I've made in the past 16 years of my life. I'm involved in a lot of extracurriculars within the school. I like to get involved. Since we're a new and upcoming school, I want to spread the culture around. I've been captain of my soccer team as well as my cheer team. I established Riley Dance Marathon at our school, which is something that was already established at Heron High School, but I have helped establish at our school, and we will begin our own marathon next year. I'm also part of our student body, and I participate in our school robotics team. What I've enjoyed a lot about our school year is a lot of student involvement. Over the years, I've seen that our students are getting more involved with their culture. They're getting familiarized with our curriculum, with the liberal arts, and everything like that. I've also loved the challenge that I've been given by my courses at school. I feel like before I wasn't as challenged as I am now, and that goes as far as my AP courses, my honors courses, and all of the curriculum that the school has. So as part of our curriculum, students are required to take Latin all 4 years, which is part of our curriculum, which is actually very unique, I think. We are also, for example, in our English class, we're required to do 1 independent reading book and 1 recitation per quarter. You have to memorize this recitation and recite it up in front of a classroom to help you with public speaking, which has made me way better at it. I would never stand up here before. As far as our diversity, I feel like Enroll Indy has really helped our school diversify. As the statistics were shown, I've seen that this year there has been a majority of new Hispanic or minority students coming into our school. That goes as far as either faculty and students. I've noticed that, our student body has diversified a lot. I've also noticed that Enroll Indy has made it a lot easier for our enrollment team. I work very close with enrollment because I'm fluent in Spanish as well. So they use me a lot for help throughout the school, as well as Mr. Harper, who's here in the audience. And I just think it's made everything a lot easier. Room for improvement, of course, there's room for improvement everywhere, as great as it can be. And that, I would say, since our student body has diversified, I feel like we should extend our arms to families that aren't fluent in English. I do know that the traditional IPS schools do have translators for families that aren't only English-speaking families. So I think that that would actually help a lot of families. I know, for example, we have some new students coming into our school at the moment who aren't being helped, I feel, as they should, because, they're not offered the same opportunities that we are as students that completely understand the language. I would also like to say that I think the partnership that we have with IPS is a very good partnership. I love what the school is doing. I love what IPS is doing. Both of my siblings go to an IPS school. My parents love it. I would just like to say thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate everything that you guys have done. Thank you.
I just want to reiterate that this is an awesome group of students, and I'm so happy to have the opportunity to work with them. So I'm going to turn it back over to Jennifer, but I'm happy to answer any questions about the advisory council.
So really, to wrap up, I first want to just say that, there have been some growing pains. There have been some challenges. But overall, the reinvention of high schools has been very successful. There's been a lot of great things to celebrate. We are creating pathways for students, again, to those high-wage, high-demand opportunities. We are preparing them to organically meet the new state graduation pathway requirements. It's not going to be about checking boxes, because we are designing our programs and pathways to do that without students or teachers or counselors even having to think about it. And we are getting our students, most importantly, ready for what happens after they graduate, to go on and really be, really to prosper and to get good jobs and be on a good career path. So overall, it's been a great year, and we will continue to do good work. So just to kind of share with you the vision for what's next, of course, continuing to promote our high school pathways and programs. So really focusing on how in the K-8 space do we help young people understand, what opportunities exist and what their high school choices are, and how their interests, skills, and aptitudes align to that. We'll continue to improve our current pathways and programs. As I mentioned, we have advisory boards for our academies. So we bring employers, university partners, and other community partners to the table to help us ensure that we're creating pathways and programs that are nimble and that are evolving with the ever-changing workforce needs. We are looking at some early college options, the potential for students to actually complete an associate degree while they're still in high school, and then potentially transition into a bachelor's degree program where they're going to finish a bachelor's degree in, less than 4 years. Also, really focused heavily on ensuring that there are work-based learning opportunities for all of our students. Want to ensure that all students gain exposure to careers and they get experience in those careers to determine hey, this is what I want to do, or just as importantly, this is not what I want to do, and to really help facilitate those employability skills that are so necessary for this 21st century workforce. And lastly, really to support our students in persisting in their 13th year. So, we really want to get them ready for what's next, but what we don't want is for them to graduate and we say, okay, see ya, good luck. That first year out of high school can be a challenge, and so we want to continue to offer our supports, our Future Center services, and to really track the students to ensure that they're being successful. So with that, I will go ahead and open it up for questions, whether they are broad questions or school-specific questions.
Commissioner Hawkins.
Jennifer, thank you, and Sean, man, that is, can the students stand back up again? Because I just want to acknowledge you and thank you for being amazing. Thank you for doing this and what you're doing. And I'm going to pick on Faith a little bit because what you said earlier with regard to newer students or new students coming to addicts that might be different. And so I'm inspired by your grace and how a little bit of tough love on the expulsion piece, but I do want to say that it is incredibly powerful as a student, as a junior, to recognize that students that you don't know that are new and what they contribute to the school community. And so I just want to thank you for saying that. Thank you. Yeah. I do have two technical questions though. So with regard to the academies within the academies, right? Mm-hmm. One question is do students have the opportunity for mobility? So they might start in one academy, and what does that look like if they might want to shift to a different direction? And then the second question is about the future centers. And so if you can just kind of sort of share how partners, employers, universities, how they might interact or gain connection or contact with the future centers at the specific high schools.
Sure. So to your first question, yes, students do have some mobility. So we do allow them to transfer once per year, and we prefer that to be, I shouldn't say we prefer that to be, it's at the break. So what we don't want is students transferring, and losing credits. And also, not picking up during the middle of a semester and transferring. So there's a little bit more ability within a school, and even within an academy. There are different pathways within an academy. So students can very easily sort of change pathways, and they can change even within the school. But that transfer from one school to the next, if a student says, you know what, I'm at George Washington in IT, but I really want to be in the Health Sciences Academy at Addicts, we only allow one transfer. And that's, again, at the semester break.
Commissioner Arnold.
Thank you, and thank you again to the students that did an excellent job. I have a few questions, just basic over the high school program. Is IPS still involved with the JAG program?
Yes. Yep, we have a JAG program at each high school.
And how does that fit in with everything else?
So it fits very well because, JAG really is a program that focuses on getting their students ready for what's next. I mean, what we're doing is almost like a JAG for all in the way we're approaching post-secondary readiness. So, JAG is very much part of every high school, and those students in those programs are still leveraging our future centers, taking advantage of, the different opportunities through the future centers. And they're also still in our pathways. JAG is a class they take. It's a credit. So they are still very much immersed in their high school and within the academies and pathways.
So you would say that it complements what we're
Absolutely.
already doing?
Absolutely.
Okay. At one time, it was my understanding that students could leave high school with certifications for certain programs.
That's right.
That's what I tell people all the time. I tell them that our students can leave with certifications
That's
and
right.
go out and get jobs. But I don't know that I know what all those certifications. Is there a way that you could send out to the board which school, what
Happy to do that.
certifications
Happy
are
to do that.
out there? I know there's CDAs and CNAs
Yep.
and
Absolutely.
EMTs and all of that. But I just like to know, so when I'm out talking in the community and bragging,
Yeah.
that I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and we offer a number of certifications, and we also, as we're building out our pathways, intend to offer even more certifications. So what I'll send you is a document that really breaks down by like academy pathway program what certification students can currently earn and what students we are going to embed as we build out the pathways.
And here's my last one. I had heard in the public that IPS was projecting that only 20% of our students would graduate or would pass the certification or whatever.
Are you referring to the I-STEP, which is required for graduation?
Yes, and it was projected only 20% of our students would pass. I'm not sure where that came from, not sure if it's accurate, but talk to me a little bit or talk to us about what we're doing. I know it's a new test and different than what it's been in the past, but tell us a little bit about, is that an accurate projection, and if it is, why, and then if so, what are we doing to
Sure.
address that?
So there are two ways a student can graduate under current and new state requirements. So the first is to pass that I-STEP. If they do not pass the I-STEP, and I can't tell you off the top of my head what our current pass rates are, so we'd have to look into that. But for seniors that do not pass the I-STEP, they have what's called graduation pathways, and I referred to that earlier. But graduation pathways really lay out sort of three what we're referring to as buckets. But the first bucket is really earning that diploma. The second is employability skills. And so there are three things students can do in order to sort of check that box. They can either participate in service-based learning, project-based learning, or work-based learning. And work-based learning can include a job or an internship or an apprenticeship. Service-based learning can actually be fulfilled, I believe, it's either service-based learning or project-based learning, but one of those can be fulfilled by participating in JAG or JROTC. So that's bucket two. And then the third bucket that they really need to check is what they refer to as post-secondary readiness skills. So that includes a long list of things that students can do to sort of check that box. It includes getting a certain score on the SAT, ACT, getting a certain score on the ASVAB, being a CTE concentrator, earning an industry-recognized credential. And so we are currently working with those students. And when I say we, I refer to our high school colleagues, principals, APs, et cetera, to help students meet those graduation pathway requirements. And we're making great progress. So we do not anticipate that our graduation rate will be 20%, I can tell you that.
Commissioner Arnold, we're actually meeting monthly with each high school team and literally looking at every student in their senior cohort to see who's on track, who's off track, and what we need to do to continue to move the needle. So it's been great to have that level of detail and attention to
So
this.
for the I-STEP, are there multiple times they can take that? I remember back with when it was the algebra and they could take it like 4 times or 6 times or whatever. Is that the way that it
Yeah,
works?
so they take it for the first time, and I will, look to my colleague, Andrew, if he's in here. But I believe they take it for the first time in their sophomore year, and then they have the ability to retest each year. So it's not a one and done.
Good to know. I just, again, wanted that ammunition, so when I'm out there and someone says that I can
Yes, I can
give them the accurate information.
guarantee it will definitely not be a 20% graduation rate, and we are all working very hard to get the rest of those students to meet those graduation pathways requirements.
And I trust you will. Thank you.
Thanks.
Commissioner-
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I wanted to circle back because I know I did not answer one of the questions that Commissioner Hawkins had. Is that correct, about the future centers? And I will also defer to my colleague Flora Jones, who really provides a lot of support if I miss anything. But I think that your question was really around how do community and employer and partners engage with the future centers. And it happens a number of ways. So it could be that, word of mouth, and it really is getting out there that, organizations are like, oh, I'm working with the future centers. And people are like, oh, what are the future centers? And then they learn about it and they reach out to us. But there are a lot of different ways in which they are involved in the future centers. So, I'll just start with universities and colleges. So we have a lot of great partnerships there. Our future center staff, I believe just today, actually, a group of students from Crispus Attucks went to UIndy, and our future center coordinator took them on a tour. So we have students going out to local universities and colleges and doing tours. Those representatives are coming into the Future Center to do presentations and sort of indirect recruitment. For the military, we, of course, have a really great resource with our JROTC program and our Director of Army Instruction, who was able to help connect us with other members of the military branches around central Indiana. and started with this really great sort of collaborative lunch of, hey, we've got to focus on this. We want more students to intentionally enlist in the military, and so they've been really great about coming out to the Future Centers and doing military nights to help families and students understand what a career in the military really looks like and means and requires. Employers, again, some of it's word of mouth, some of it's pre-existing relationships, some of it's outreach from us, the foundation, but we often have employers say, how do I get engaged with the schools? Through the Future Center. Come to our career fairs, come in and sit on a panel and talk about your career, meet with students to do resume critiques. So there's a lot of different ways that partners are engaging. As I mentioned earlier, we have a partnership with Daniel's Closet and Dress for Success, and they've agreed when we have students who have needs for professional clothing, we can bring our students there and they will help get them suited up. Does that answer your question? Great.
Commissioner Gore.
Thank you very much for being here. It's such an important part of the district. It's our reinvention of the high schools. And the students were a pleasure to listen to.
They were.
They were amazing. All of them spoke so well. I just want to know, how are we preparing our 8th grade to come to high school to make pathway choices? Is somebody going out to them, or just how are we doing?
Yeah, so we have actually identified recruiting teams for each of the high schools, and the high schools are really great about doing this. Just getting out to the K-8 buildings or the 6-8 buildings to really just talk to the students about the opportunities. But we actually have a subcommittee who is meeting on a biweekly basis to really sketch out what does this look like across the district and what is the frequency with which things happen. So of course there's a showcase of schools, the recruitment teams from the high school, but we're also talking about what are some of the other efforts. Could we have just a high school day for 8th grade students or 7th grade students even, and sort of bus them to one location where they can talk to all the different high schools. So we're really digging into that. We're also talking a lot about what does this sort of career awareness and counseling look like in the K-8 space. So we're starting them even before 7th or 8th grade and thinking about, here are the things I know I'm interested in, and here's how it aligns to my high school options. So we are doing a lot of work around that, and there's a big focus on it right now.
Do we feel that we're going to get quite a few of 8th graders to come to the high schools, which is one of the big things? We want to keep those schools full.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that, after the first window, I believe we were at about 80% of 8th graders had chosen a school. And so I believe the second window closes later this month. And they were making good progress on, the 20% that remained, getting them to make that high school choice. So making good gains there, and should have a really clear picture sometime in May.
Commissioner Collins.
Thank you. I think that the Future Centers are very interesting and positive, and I have been impressed with those I've seen. And thank you, young students, for your well-spoken presentations. I'm curious to know, and I should have said too that I think some of the suspension issues might be solved with mentoring, and the new mentoring program that's coming to addicts may be a real positive thing that all the other high schools could maybe invest in, something similar that all the students have mentors. Having said that, I'm just wondering, what are some of the ways you've envisioned the 13th year? What kind of supports do you think, do you see the IPS can offer their students?
Sure. So one thing I would mention is working with the post-secondary institutions that our students are headed for, or even when we know students are headed to the military, but perhaps providing some kind of summer bridge programming. There's something that's called the summer melt. So research has found that students, they leave high school in, May, June, and they've said, I'm going to Ivy Tech. And then August hits and they don't go. And so there's something that's happening during those summer months in which students are, changing plans. And so we're thinking about what can we do in the summer to kind of help bridge that transition. We are also, just working with some of our higher ed partners and our military partners to think about what can we do to support those, especially in the senior year, those students, to ensure that they are ready to go on and be successful. We're also going to use data to really sort of track how things are going. Again, did they enroll? Did they go on to employment, and what do those wages look like? And if we find that they're not succeeding, reaching out to them and bringing them back in, bringing them to the Future Center to get some additional supports. So we're just thinking about how we do all that.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to thank you for coming to speak. I was a part of the program when you first started trying to develop around one of the academies, which was the Business Academy. And I am very happy to see that you have surpassed anything that I thought was going to happen with that program. And so I think the most important part, though, of today's information that you shared is that we started off this path saying we wanted to make sure that our students' high school experience was enriched and that they have a greater opportunity and that they will be exposed to more things. It sounds very much like to me that did occur. So while we had to do some things that we didn't necessarily want to do, like in closing some schools, I'm glad to know that did boomerang into our children really getting the opportunity to have some great things happen in their life and in their future. And so for that, I thank both of you for the presentation today, and for all three of the young people that were here to speak. I want to let you know that I see bright things in your future, and I am very proud to hear you speak and the fact that you're one of our IPS students and scholars. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. I was like, I thought
That's
I had
okay.
everybody, and I was last.
Do you have another question?
That's okay. Now I can ditto a lot of that conversation she just said. I'd like to say thank you, Jennifer, for coming out and talking to us. I also want to say thank you to those students that came out and poured their heart out. It was a great opportunity, and thank you guys. I have a couple questions to go back around to Commissioner Gore. If you can give us a percentage of how many eighth graders are choosing IPS with your recruitment efforts, that'll be great. I know you probably don't have that number now, but if you can send that email to us and let us know the number.
I'm looking back at our director of enrollment, and I'm like, yep, well, we can get that to you.
Okay, thank you. And also, how many are enrolling but not going to either college or the military? That'll be good.
So we don't have clear numbers on that yet. That is something that moving forward with this particular cohort is what we need to track more closely, is how many of our students are going to college, to the military, and through. So we want to track year over year what's happening and then try to figure out what are the root causes of why they're not persisting, and what do we need to do as a K-12 system to help correct that.
Great. And also, I wanted to recognize, you did mention the education leadership program at Shortridge. One of our students, Mary Jo Eastley, was selected from Shortridge out of 15 students to attend that, and she'll be going to South Africa and Washington, D.C., and I wanted to put that because that was one of your points for one of our students.
Awesome. I love stories like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Jennifer, and all the high school folks who came out, and our students who, again, are incredible and amazing. Wish Aldo all the best as he heads to Princeton for the summer for his studies. Weston, you're going to have a hard act to follow. We're going to go to item 6.05, which is our quarterly finance update. And so Weston will come and give us that regular update.
Thank you, Alicia. Sorry. All right. Third quarter finance update. I think last year I said it, maybe around the April time. These academic updates, it's why we are here, and I just want to make sure we show the appreciation for the sharing of the students. We're going to talk about some of the legislative updates, and I think we need to get Aldo out there on the legislative advocacy for the next legislative session. But I think he's heading out the door. Tonight, I have opportunity to review some of the standard slides we've presented in the past, but tonight I'm taking a focus on our reporting systems. We mentioned you can click on these links and see the reports. There's been some conversations from the public comment about our reporting practices. We had a comment from Commissioner Arnold last month about what is a CAFR, are we moving to a CAFR? And so we're going to have a colleague of mine, Valerie Hunt, Director of Financial Operations, share something that has to do with the board approved our recommendation to upgrade and optimize our system. So she'll give an update on that for those board members who are new to the board, just to give you a sense that it's an 18 to 24 month process, and we're in the middle of that. Just give you an update on that. Also have some great news about refunding of our debt, which finalized tonight. And then we'll have Scott Nickerson share on the gap reporting. So all in all, we're providing basically a snapshot of what we have discussed the last 3 or 4 years at Finance Committee meetings, all here in about 8 to 10 minutes. So let's go. So we have our slide with the board appropriated funds. Still 18-19, where we have the general fund, the capital projects fund, the transportation funds. A couple items I just want to highlight here. Semi-annual payments of property taxes are received in December and June. So this is one of those quarterly updates where we have a bigger difference in the revenues and expenditures. We continue to pay our transportation expenditures. We continue to pay our capital projects expenditures, but we do not have revenues associated in this quarter to match those expenditures. So that's why you see the expenditures in each of those, the actual of last year, the projected for this year, and the actual of this year being fairly significant. But if we look at what the transportation funds on the expenditure side are, what we're expending this year versus the budget amount, we continue to show the improvement in some of the changes that we did with our 3-tier to 2-tier systems, our high school choice programming, centralizing our high schools. That is taking that optimization is seeing less dollars being spent in transportation. Also, our budget cuts in spring of 2018, summer of 2018 have continued throughout this school year, and so you see the expenditures projected $205 million. You see the actual expenditures being around $198 million year to date, and then we see the revenues projected to be in line with our projections. When it comes to cash, again, one of the lower points of the year when it comes to cash because of the semi-annual payments of property tax payments being received in December and June. But we've got $118 million in the bank at the end of March. You can click on the link there, the Treasury report that's associated to those funds for more details. Our supplier diversity, we track it by calendar quarter and by calendar year. So we've rolled forward to a new calendar. This is the first quarter of 2019 compared to the first quarter of 2018. You can see we're still in that 11-12% range for that quarter. We see eligible expenditures increase, which means there's more dollars going to minority vendors. The highlights that Jennifer O'Shea shared about the high school construction, a lot of that spend is captured in this minority spend. So we talk about the capital referendum issuance of the debt and the work there, and the high school projects that we've done. A lot of that is captured in these expenditures. We'll also highlight later in the presentation our participation of MBEs in our underwriting of the debt that we refunded. During the budget process the last few months, we've had a focus and a highlight of some considerations for the decisions that are needed to be made in our district, but also some decisions that are being made outside of our district. We highlighted the unknowns during the budget process. Again, last night, the legislative session ended. And I just want to highlight a couple items on the legislative funding formula that is more known than what it was before. 2 numbers I want to just bring to your attention. The first one is $231 per pupil, and another one is $353 per pupil. At IPS, we're big fans of equity. We want equitable distribution based on student need. Back in December, November, when I listened to legislators say, hey, this is how it's going to happen. We're going to write the budget, and here's how it's going to be. I expected equal funding. In this case, the $231 per pupil increase from this year till 2021 is the IPS amount, and $353 per pupil increase from this year is Zionsville's. Okay, so not surprising to me because that's what they said would happen, and that's how we've projected our revenues. But at some point, that's the state of affairs in our state, is that equal funding continues to be the average increasing and IPS decreasing. That's been the fact since 2010-11. We don't see it changing, and that's the reality. Second thing is the legislative action on the $1 law. it has outlined and clarified more of how we would distribute and sell and dispose of buildings. At the same time, it does not allow us to sell at market rates and optimize that opportunity. Thirdly, they have moved to 2 counts. That's an item that is a big shift. I highlight that because the majority of the state is not in favor of that. However, that is what the legislative action did pass. And I think from an equitable distribution, if there is mobility, the dollars should follow the student. If they leave our district, they go to another district. I think that's the right thing to do. At the same time, an example is Newcomer School, one of the best programs here in the district. You've had Arturo Rodriguez come and share about Newcomer, but Newcomer typically has a lot of placement throughout the school year, right? So the last few years, in order for that to be sustainable, we launched that program when it was a 2-count system. Then it moved to 1 count. And in order for that to be a really sustainable system is that you have 150 kids maybe show up at count day. But by the end of the school year, we've got 300 kids in that building. What that means is that 150 kids have come into the U.S., have lived in Indianapolis, and are not counted, and we do not get dollars for those students. That's an example where I believe that will be of benefit to IPS and some of the programming for some of our most needy students. We've highlighted during the budget process some of the strategic conversations we have, and then some of the items we've implemented. I do want to highlight the in-development process. We're working on our facilities operations, our footprint of that. We had a Superintendent Advisory Council. They're talking about what does it look like for high school students to transition to Indigo. We are in motion and having those conversations and doing plans. The food service waiver, which has been talked about the last few months, that was actually filed today to the Indiana Department of Ed. So that is in motion, and we will await the decision on that, and we'll report back when we receive that decision. So at this time, I want to transition. I want to invite Valerie Hunt, our Director of Financial Operations. Valerie's been with us a couple years. She oversees procurement, payroll, and our asset management, but also one of the key projects that she's shared with the board at work sessions at a finance committee, and this is the first time giving an update on where we are in our Munis optimization project. I'll turn it over to Valerie.
Good evening. Okay, so by way of background, before I talk about this slide really briefly for those who are new, Munis is our ERP system, or basically our back office operating system, and it has the capability to do everything from HR to payroll to textbook management to procurement, purchasing to reporting, and everything in between that's required to operate the school district. It was implemented about 10 years ago, and at that time it looks to have been implemented based upon mimicking what we were doing and how we were doing things at that time, not based upon best practice, not based upon kind of a cross-section of the functional areas and try to configure it based upon integration between all those different things. So the project that we have currently underway is doing something different than that. So since they built it the way that they did at that time, we had a lot of underutilization of our ERP system, and there was a lot of purchasing of additional systems that we bolted on to Munis. So the system or the project initiative that we have currently underway is made up of cross-functional area team members, as well as involvement from all levels within the organization, from our clerical staff all the way up to our executive team. And the goal of it is to seek basically 2 basic things, which is, the first is we want to not just upgrade to the latest version of Munis, but we want to take a closer look at our processes and streamline those and improve efficiencies with that, making it best practice standards with the help of our Tyler Tech team that's coming alongside of us to do this. And the second is we want to fully utilize it. So we want to use the ERP system for the way that it was designed to be used, and then transition off of a lot of those additional bolt-on systems that we purchased. The meaning of this one, or the reason we put this here, is just to show the scope of it. So it's a really big scope. We're looking at all the different functional areas so that we can streamline and do best practice across the district. And lastly, the timeline. So after we got the board approval last year, our first big milestone was in October, which was to move to the cloud-based system for Munis. We did hit that on time, and there's a lot of work that's already been done, and there's a lot more work still to do. The main point is that we have a lot of really committed IPS employees coming alongside, doing their day job and also working on this project, highly vested in the success of this project and initiative because they see the vision of what this is going to do for their work-life balance, for the way we can add more value and do more value-added things versus just, processy type things. And we are on track to hit our July 1, 2020 upgrade date.
So the reporting systems are key because there's a lot of people and stakeholders that ask for data. We have internal work streams and workflows, but we also have people from the outside that ask for data every so often. And one opportunity that we shared last meeting in March was the credit rating update from S&P. So on the screen, what you have, the arrows pointing to are the current ratings of the different agencies. So we have bonds rated by S&P, and we have ratings from Moody's. These are high-grade credit ratings. One thing I would note is that over the course of the last few years, because of the cash flow considerations that we've been reporting to them and sharing in a transparent way, is to say, we need this referendum to pass. And that before the referendum passed, our ratings went down. So those arrows were higher. They were in the very high-grade credit area. It was basically Carmel and IPS across the state that had the highest ratings. Since then, Carmel remains there. IPS has been reduced. Still high-grade credit, but to the point of the passage of the referendum and then our reporting systems, knowing that we are projecting out, and some of the projections we've shared with you, those are what the credit rating agencies are seeing. And so we share that because the next slide talks about our debt refunding. And so that credit rating helps us lower the interest rate that is paid by IPS, which then ultimately lowers the tax rate that we bill to the taxpayers. And so in this 2019 refunding, this is a refunding of $100 million of bonds. We started looking at refunding this in 2017, and the tax law, the big tax reform bill in 2017, basically moved and disallowed us to refund it. And later in 2018, IRS came back and said, you know what, you can't actually refund it. So we've been in and out, on and off, trying to refund these bonds, knowing that there's savings here. So when we initially took to the Finance Committee, we believed that we were going to project about $1.5 million of savings. Not a lot, but it's $1.5 million in savings to the taxpayers. So we said, hey, we're going to go forward on this. At the same time, with the commitment to MBE that the board has, we committed with Stiefel a 50% allocation of the underwriting to MBE firms. And so you'll see right there in the middle, Loop Capital and Ramirez participated in this refunding that closed today. You'll see the actual amounts that were paid, just to be transparently open with what has been paid to those underwriters. But in the end, we saved not just $1.5 million, but we saved $10 million. So over the course of the issuance, going forward, we're saving the taxpayers $10 million. So that's some good news. One of the questions that has arisen over the last couple of months in public comment and then from Commissioner Arnold was what are we doing to do a CAF, or a comprehensive annual financial report? Well, it's a great question because when we had the Finance Committee established in 2015 and then we had our first meeting in 2016, we actually laid out a 5-year plan to do a CAFR and what would it take, and we outlined it. And so what we have here is our recommendations that are summarized, and I believe the board's been briefed with a memo, but you can click on the link at the bottom of the page to go out to that report that had 12 recommendations. At that time, I was not on board. I was at my computer at my office and read it in my office, and it's like, some good recommendations. Let's do it. Well, come on board, and that's basically been the blueprint to come on board and get things right. So what we look at, some of these in process, 10 of the 12 are done. Basically, if you follow the work stream of what the Finance Committee has done, it's right in line with what we've been talking about for 4 years. But the in process is a 5-year plan that we initiated in 2016 And later on in the presentation, we'll have Scott Nickerson show we're in the process of moving that direction. But GAAP financial statements are the next phase. And we've been able to get some obstacles out of the way of being able to have an external audit from a CPA to have an annual audit rather than a biannual audit. The item on in process with financial impact of charter schools in the district, that's one that IPS, at the time when this report was delivered, had not issued an innovation charter agreement. There was no unified enrollment. We had not done analyses from outside advisors on impact. But since then, we've done those. We've engaged those. We're sharing data. But I believe this is one that's going to be always in process just because of the nature of the IPS district and the framework by which we operate. Not going to go in detail here, but what this is showing, if you study it, is the process of what is mandated and what is IPS voluntarily doing it on its own initiative. So what you have is bond markets saying, hey, we need to see your records. That's a mandate. We have to do that. But when we talk about quarterly finance updates, don't have to, but we have this opportunity to come before you and answer questions, bring before you the challenges and obstacles that are facing the district financially. We have a finance committee that set up policy that isn't required, but those policies have dictated the conversation about the referendum. That 8% 1 month reserve, that is directly related to the finance committee, and that is best practice, and that is what has driven every conversation for the last 3 or 4 years of we're going to run out of money. We cannot go below this, and it will continue to be the policy by which we have a conversation. The SBOA, biannual audits, that's unacceptable to the rating agencies, but that's what we had to do. We asked for an annual. We demanded it. Said, come in and audit us annually. When they did not allow us to have a third-party audit, we advocated at the legislature to change that, and we got that. And we're the first district to do that. All of that is voluntary. It's leading the efforts to be best practice and a leader in financial reporting in Indiana. I referenced GAAP, and I just want to invite Scott Nickerson from Crow LLP. He's been an advisor, a trusted advisor for us the last couple of years in moving the needle on financial transparency and reporting. In the general purchasing report tonight, there was a Crow LLP item that you may have seen. What Scott is going to do is outline how he's aiding and advising the district to, in the next 12 to 18 months, to attain the GAAP reporting and potentially have this CAFR issued later on this year.
Good evening. As you may know, IPS reports its financial activities to a variety of stakeholders, internally for the board and staff, our students and families, the general community, Department of Education, federal government, etc. The level of reporting really varies based on 3 specific criteria. One is your desire to provide transparency in how you're utilizing resources of the organization. 2, to help people understand the big picture in some cases. In other cases, understanding the specific elements of the programs and decisions you're making and the dollars you're investing in those programs. And 3rd, based on regulation. If you think about historically how IPS has reported, it's been done on a cash basis, essentially. We look at the cash balances you have at the beginning of the year. We look at the receipts that come in, the disbursements that go out, and then what are your ending cash balances. Those balances are categorized into funds. That kind of reporting provides you a look at how cash is spent and how cash is received. As we move towards GAAP, GAAP reporting are generally accepted accounting principles. We're really moving from that cash basis of reporting to what we call a full accrual basis of reporting, which is similar to the private sector. There are some benefits that go with that. It gives you a better understanding of the whole picture of the school corporation, what your obligations are currently as well as in the future. It provides more disclosures about the decisions and the activities you're doing. It gives you an opportunity to explain the various impacts and issues and challenges you're going through, as Weston shared, in a format that can be communicated to external stakeholders. As you may know, House Enrolled Act 1009 required entities that, in the case of schools, with an ADM of over 15,000 are required to have a GAAP annual audit starting with your fiscal year 2020. That will allow you to continue to issue bonds in the market as of August 2020. So basically what the state has done is saying that the importance of financial information to the credit markets as well as to the state of Indiana will help to provide annual reporting that's consistent in order for you to continually disclose the activities that are occurring. As you can see from Weston's bond issue summary presented a few slides ago, there is a lot of dollars at stake when you're looking at credit ratings. Part of that is the quality and the consistency of your financial reporting. CROW is essentially helping IPS with gap preparedness. We had the opportunity to meet with the Finance Committee to talk in a lot more detail about all the logistics and activities that have to occur over the next, or essentially today and over the next 16 months. Our goal and CROW's role is to support IPS from the standpoint of helping them to move from the cash basis of reporting to understanding what are the assets and liabilities, and what are the debts and the capital assets of the organization to be able to report on a full accrual basis. We're also helping 4 other school districts who are required to implement as well. So we're able to invest funds in what I call a consortium method, which each of the schools are investing a certain amount of funds to share in the cost of implementing the standard. Many of the standard items will be applicable to each of the schools. However, each school has its unique aspects and specific challenges for reporting, and IPS, I think, leads the pack as far as how many challenges exist, or how many, I don't know if it's challenges, but more so of innovative things you're doing will require different ways of accounting and reporting. And so we're working with the Finance Committee, with staff, to find the best way to capture that information. If you think about what Valerie was saying about improving the financial operating systems, part of that would be gathering the information we need in order to move from the cash basis of reporting, which is how we operate during the year, to provide that information to move to full accrual. I think one of the key elements that we looked at in finding a solution to implement GAP is the balance of what I call time, talent, and treasure. What are the skill sets that you have in-house that can support this? What are how much time, and where do we want IPS staff to spend their time? Obviously, for me, I would say spend it in the classroom, spend it on important programs and initiatives. And then also having the resources to bring in technical specialists like CROW and some of your other advisors to help fill the gaps. So as we went through that process, we were able to come up with a methodology to balance that as far as the amount of resources to invest, using a consortium model to mitigate cost, and using the particular talents of the staff that exist today and complementing that through our process. The long-term goal is to move towards a comprehensive annual financial report. As Weston has indicated, we're starting with the requirement of having a gap audit for June 30, 2020. However, that was a goal already, so I wouldn't call it required. It's kind of fulfilling 2 things. One is your long-term plan, the 5-year plan, as well as meeting the standard that the state has set for reporting. If you think about what the next steps would be to a comprehensive annual financial report, the base reporting of that is the financial statements themselves on a GAAP basis. In addition to that, a comprehensive annual financial report would allow the superintendent or the board to communicate in a transmittal letter the activities and highlights of the organization, both from a programmatic standpoint as well as from a financial standpoint, how resources are being invested, et cetera. It would also include what we call a management's discussion and analysis, which is analysis of a year-over-year activities, to give readers information about what has changed from the prior year and what the school corporation is doing and how they envision looking at it in the future. It includes the financial statements themselves, enhanced note disclosures, so it'd be a one-stop shop to understand what are all the debt obligations that IPS has, what are the commitments they've made to future contracts, what are the assets that they're managing on a daily basis, and what restrictions are on those funds, whether those restrictions are placed from outside parties, such as a restricted fund, or what you may have restricted internally for specific use, such as a rainy day fund. And then also provides information about your community, the demographics of the community, to help readers understand the economic and demographic impacts, employers, property tax rates, et cetera, thereby giving you a complete picture of what IPS is doing in the community and providing that information to a wide variety of stakeholders. After implementing that CAFR, there's an opportunity to participate in the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting. But as we look at this, we're taking baby steps to make sure that we have nailed down the processes, have utilized the resources available to us to provide that audit report, and then continue to build on that to create a CAFR and move on to recognition as providing the highest level of reporting. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
So it summarizes our reporting update, our systems, some successes we've had, and also where we're going. Any questions?
Commissioner Collins?
I just have a question because I'm so new to this, but on the link to the financial reports, then I noticed some of them, and we could go there, but I noticed that some of the line items were either had not been, spent all the way across. Let's say, for instance, that there was school improvement activities or materials that was designated at $24,000, just to make a round figure, and then across the 2 years or whatever it was like $22,000. Then are those line items designated strictly for that? Can they be moved, into another pot of money, or how is that spent?
So not sure exactly which report, but generally speaking, general fund would be unrestricted. So there would be strategic. We could move one pocket to the other. If it's title or some of the other federal state program, you a lot of times have to submit a budget change if you're going to go over a certain threshold. So if the threshold is you're going to move this budget line item more than 10%, you have to get IDOE approval before you actually would spend more or reduce it that amount. So that's one scenario that does happen quite a bit with federal grants, state grants, and also some private grants. A Lilly or a Walton grant. Those may have some of those determinants that you have to get the approval before you change it up or down.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Hawkins?
Weston, Valerie, and Scott, thank you for the update. And I think I just want to lift up the self-imposed accountability. I think that's critical. And then also just thank you for I'll call the self-imposed accountability with regard to the quarterly update on the deficit. You might recall that last quarter, we communicated a $10 million deficit in Q2, end of Q2. Q3 now it's about 35, and I appreciate that context around timing. And so I just wanted to lift that up, that from an accountability standpoint, this is a timing issue, and we expect those payments to roll in the spring, which will help. But I appreciate you calling that out. Mm-hmm. And then I guess in addition, the other piece is great work also on the refi of the $100 million bonds. That's huge, and that's a big deal. And I think a lot of that, to your point, is credited by self-imposed accountability, and that helps, to your point, with regard to the increasing of the bond rating. So that's sometimes no pain, no gain, right? So, and then lastly, I'll just note that is it May 1st?
May 1st, 5 o'clock, right here in this room.
Yeah, May 1st, and Commissioner Slack and I will be joining the team here to talk in depth. So if anyone is interested in participating and to getting even more granular in the GAP process, you're more than welcome to come. So I don't see any hands going up in the crowd, so or to clap. So there we go. All right, thanks.
Thank you. Oh, Diane. Commissioner Arnold.
I would just like to say I very much appreciate you responding, especially with slide 12, because we do have the same people come repeatedly and criticize the board and the administration for not adhering to the recommendations from the Council of Great City Schools. And so this is a great slide to demonstrate that. And although those people aren't here tonight, I do hope that information filters down to them some way, and that they are more confident that, I have been on this board a long time, and there is much, much, much more transparency and information about the finances of the district than I have ever seen. So thank you very much for the information. And I noticed you even had some funnels in your attachment, so thank you for my funnels.
They used to be slides 51, 52. I moved them up just for you,
Thank you.
Commissioner, to be the first, because I kept going forward 30 slides last meeting.
Great, thank you, Weston. And rest of team. The sixth item, item 6.06, is a memo that provides an overview of the status as we close out this year's Innovation School selection processes. In the memo, you can find an outcome for each of the schools or organizations that submitted a letter of interest at the start of this academic year. So I want to note for commissioners that not moving forward with a prospective partner this year does not preclude them from submitting letters of interest in subsequent years, but we wanted to make sure, since those letters of interest were submitted at the start of the school year, that we came back to you and just provided publicly an update on how the process went and what the outcome was for this year. Jamie Vandewale, Portfolio Officer, or I can take any questions that commissioners may have at this time.
Commissioner Arnold.
I just wanted clarification for the Phelan leadership. They still have 2 schools that aren't associated with IPS at all. They're just independent.
That's correct.
Okay, I read that and I was a little confused, but that's what I thought it said. Thank you.
Excellent.
I want to have one more. I would just like to say that I was very pleased that we did not have any restarts or the need for any restarts. I think that, a lot of times I think the public or some groups or individuals have said we've deliberately let schools fail so we can let them be taken over. And I think that's never been the intention of the district or the administration. And I think a lot of work has gone in. I've asked for information on schools that have been failing schools for 5 or 6 years, on what interventions have been attempted and been given volumes of information. So I know that efforts have always been made, but it appears that maybe what's happening internally has made a real difference. And I'm pleased that we didn't have to have any schools be restarted this time.
I think we've built a process that we're very proud of, that we would stand behind in years when we had those recommendations, and that we stand behind now. Excellent. I think I will turn it back over to Vice President Moore for our bond public hearing.
Okay, we have a special item on our tonight's agenda related to the bond issuance related to our recently approved capital referendum. After the presentation and discussion, the board will first receive information about the bond issuance and the capital project that will be funded by the debt issue. After the presentation and discussion, I will open the public hearing at which anyone in attendance may speak to the necessity of the lease and whether the rental to be paid is fair and reasonable. Mr. Young.
So on Tuesday night, we wrote through the timeline, but just as a reminder, this is the capital referendum project, renovating and improving school facilities, safety enhancements, and upgrading technology and equipment. That's the goal. We have our timeline. Again, 75% of the voters saying yes in November 6, 2018. Set off a slew of activity with our advisors, whether it be bond counsel, whether it be contractors, whether it be our ops team, planning the cost estimates with our architects. We've had a lot of meetings, whether it be finance committee reviewing the debt issuance plans. We've had some meetings where we approved the forms of leases last month. This evening, we're having a public hearing regarding the necessity of the lease to the multi-school building corporation. And then following the public hearing, we are seeking the approval of that lease and authorization of the execution of that lease. We'll continue on next month. Our plan would be to come before you and ask for the issuance of that debt, so we have a resolution for that, and then work with our bond team and our municipal financial advisor to finalize the debt issuance. Again, the listing here are some of the advisors that have come alongside us. Many of them are alongside for our refunding and many of the other projects we've done on debt and our capital operations the last few years. So tonight, the action that we're asking for is the approval, execution of the lease to the Multi-School Building Corporation, and then authorizing the publishing of that notice of the lease execution. Turn it back over to you, Commissioner Moore. Unless there are questions.
Having heard from staff and consultants, I now declare the public hearing open and ask anyone in attendance interested in speaking on the proposed lease rental agreement to please come to the podium. We're asking anyone wishing to speak to please come to the podium. Having received all public comment, the board public hearing is now closed. Commissioners, do I have a motion to approve resolution number 7822?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Superintendent Johnson, I turn the agenda back over to you.
Thank you. There are no items in Section 8 unfinished business, so we'll move right into new business. In this item 9.01, which are governing documents of the partnership between IPS and the IPS Education Foundation, on Tuesday, Joe Grammelsbacher provided you with a brief overview of our requests as it relates to both the Memorandum of Understanding as well as the lease agreement regarding office space for IPSEF. And so the administration seeks board approval on both of those items.
Okay, here we go. So, do I have a motion to approve the lease agreement and MOU with the IPS Education Foundation as presented?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Any discussions?
I'm
Commissioner
sorry, I
Slack?
do have a question. On line item number 6, the lease, it says that they should provide 2 parking spaces. Is only one person that's going to be in that job, right?
Stephanie Bailey and then Kelly Riley, who also works
Oh,
there.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that
And
clarification.
also they just park in the garage.
Appreciate it.
So it's fine.
Thank you. Also, I'm sorry, yeah, and then line 2, it says that the lease agreement will either automatically renew after 1 year, is that right? And then it will go for 10 years?
Yes, ma'am. So the original term of the lease is actually a 1-year lease from May 1st, 2019 to April 30th, 2020, and then will automatically renew in the event of no default. Important to note, IPS has termination rights at any time for any reason with written notice.
Okay.
So we are not bound for an indefinite period. But the lease does provide for 10 terms of 1 year. So it's a 10-year lease with an annual renewal, but always an option to terminate for either party.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Alicia?
Thank you. Item 9.02, the administration requests board approval for the appointment of a real estate broker related to real estate disposition.
Do I have a motion to approve resolution 7823, appointing the broker and authorizing his sale as presented?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Does any commissioner wish to offer closing comments? Commissioner Gore.
I know it's so late, but I just think that this is something that's worth mentioning. A few months ago, the Board of Commissioners, along with the NAACP, signed a resolution to make sure that we are aware of the lead in the soil and to check our children's blood levels about lead. And we've moved a step further, and thanks to interim superintendent Johnson, who's really helped us in that way. There's going to be a public service announcement that will run 3 times a day, starting April the 27th through May the 27th, and she will be one of the people that will be on that public service announcement. It will be on WTLC FM, WTLC AM, WHHH, and WNOW. And the students with elevated levels will receive further assistance from Marion County Public Health Department, and the testing will resume next year. So there are about 10 of our schools of which there will be testing of our students. And I think from the news and the other aspects of hearing about lead and other things in the soil, that it's very important that IPS become part of that. And I'd just like to thank the board for caring enough to sign the resolution and enough to care about our children. Thank you.
Commissioner Hawkins?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Moore. So in the personnel report, as part of the consent agenda, there was a document, a memorial to Carol Taylor. Carol Taylor was a teacher at Addicts, and so I'm going to read that briefly just to acknowledge her service, her life, and the appreciation that we have as the district for her life. So whereas Carol Taylor served the Indianapolis Public Schools for 1 year and 8 months, whereas her years of service contributed positively and significantly to the Indianapolis Public School students. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of School Commissioners of the City of Indianapolis that the death of Carol Taylor be memorialized and that a copy of this memorial be sent to the members of her family. Beginning in August 2018, Carol worked as an English teacher at Crispus Attucks. Prior to coming to Crispus Attucks, Ms. Taylor served the students at Arsenal Technical High School as an English teacher for the 2017-18 school year. During her lifetime, Ms. Taylor authored more than 30 books using the name Edane McCoy. Carol Taylor was respected by the students and staff at Crispus Attucks High School for her pleasant disposition, professionalism, and dedication to the students. Ms. Taylor will be greatly missed by the students, staff members, and school communities of Crispus Attucks High School and Arlington High School, as well as Indianapolis Public Schools.
Commissioner Slash?
Also in the personnel report will be a memorial to Francis Lake. Whereas Francis Lake served the Indianapolis Public Schools for 15 years and 5 months. Whereas her service contributed positively and significantly to Indianapolis Public School students. Therefore, be it resolved by the Board of School Commissioners of the City of Indianapolis that the death of Francis Lake be memorialized and that the copy of this memorial be sent to the members of her family. Francis Lake worked as a media assistant at Arnold Woods Elementary for 9 years and 8 months. Francis Lake was loved by the students and staff at Arlington Woods Elementary, and her kindness, thoughtfulness, and devotion to the students and staff. She will be greatly missed by the students and staff members of Arlington Woods Elementary.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson?
Thank you, Vice President Moore. The last few weeks back after spring break have been very busy ones in our district. I want to commend Scott Martin, Dina Bond, and our food services team for the continued commitment to meal service over breaks. We served 5,601 meals over spring break, with nearly 30% of those meals being served from our bus stop cafe, so going into apartment complexes and communities to serve our students. So we're very proud to be able to provide that service to our community. We also have several students who are making their mark. So in addition to Aldo, who will be off to Princeton, one of them is Tamia Jackson. Remember, we honored her last month before we knew she was going to win this even bigger award. She's a Shortridge High School sophomore who won the National JROTC Essay Contest, and with it, an all-expense-paid trip to Washington, D.C. And so she is the first ever winner from Indiana. And she and her mother in June will be off to D.C. So we'll be very excited to hear about her experience there. Very proud to have her representing IPS. I'd also like to congratulate the Arsenal Technical High School Band. They brought home a gold medal from the Indiana State School Music Association competition earlier this month. So go Titans. We're very proud of them. We also have many spring sports underway, soccer, girls volleyball, so I am sure I will come back with some season champion announcements next month. And then finally, iLearn, which is Indiana's statewide assessment, kicked off this week for our students grades 3 through 8. So we wish all of them the best as they do their best to show all they've learned so far this year. And that concludes my remarks.
Okay, our next regular meeting will be our work session on Tuesday, May the 21st, beginning at 6 p.m. at the Global Prep Academy School number 44. For those who are interested, there's also a finance committee, as Commissioner Hawkins has already stated, on Wednesday, May the 1st, in this room at 5 o'clock. Having completed all items on the agenda, this meeting stands adjourned. Wow.